we've seen it all. This is the true My Dying Bride. We've
Mm.
seen it writ large. So I think they wanted me out. I don't know why. A long time before that. Anyway, it happened. I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe it. I remember years ago, Andrew would say to me, "Look, if you're going to leave, at least give us plenty of notice."
Hmm.
I have no intentions of leaving. And we all had a drink. It was great. We laughed our heads off all night. It was absolutely brilliant. Then we took the photo, shoved it on the internet. The internet decided we should get back together. I was always terrified of going on stage with My Dying Bride, and I'm sure that terror is going to come back with Towards the Sinister. And so some of the early gigs, I've got my passport in my back pocket
Yeah.
because I was this close to just walking out. I mean, I don't care what they say about me now. We all know why it happened and how it happened. If they want to spout some bullshit, well, that would be the measure of those people.
Lethal, you're here. Welcome back to the False Face, or indeed welcome to the False Face for the first time, if it's your first time visiting. I'm joined this week by Aaron Stainthorpe, formerly of My Dying Bride and latterly of Towards the Sinister, primarily for a conversation about Towards the Sinister and his previous exploits and antics in My Dying Bride. This is a wide-ranging conversation with Aaron, who I've been trying to get on the show for months, and indeed whenever we first agreed to conversate thus. Months ago, the news about Towards the Sinister wasn't public, so I had planned for a different interview that was more focused, I suppose, on his career up to this point without much regard to the future, apart from his work with High Parasite. So it's nice to be able to talk about what his plans and his vision for Towards the Sinister is in such detail with candor and respect and forward leaning. And yeah, it was just a privilege to talk to him. This is the latest in an unofficially titled series called Longest Interview Ever, because I did a little bit of research after the fact, and the longest conversation that I could find that Aaron had with anybody online is about, I think, 60 or 70 seconds shorter than this one. And this introduction, of course, will take us right over the top. It's not something that I'm trying to do, because you'll see not all of my interviews are titled that way, but this just happens to be that. So yeah, hope you enjoy Aaron Stainthorpe's longest interview ever. But as you'll see, it's not an interview, it's a conversation. I mean, it's kind of half and half. Obviously I had questions that I wanted to ask him, but I like talking not to people, at people, but with people. And I've said this before, and I'm going to try and say it again. I'm going to try and keep this week's introduction short because I am in agony. I was at Sepultura at the weekend. Sepultura, Crypta, Bloodbath, Sacred Reich, Biohazard, and it was an extraordinary show, probably one of the best shows, with a caveat, which I'll get to in due time, that I've ever been to. The energy was insane, and I'm feeling my age. Crypta were on first, and Crypta were brilliant. Crypta is a brilliant marriage there of technical proficiency and charisma. Total package, just an absolutely brilliant group. And I stood at the back and thought, yeah, I'm just going to conserve my energy, stand with the arms folded, and take this in and enjoy it. But because I've always liked the Sacred Reich song "The American Way" from the first time I saw it on Beavis and Butthead years and years and years ago, I had to get a little bit closer for Sacred Reich, and then I got just sucked into the complete set because I'd never really listened to Sacred Reich. Sorry, guys from Sacred Reich, that's my fault, and I will rectify that. My friend James is going to give me recommendations, no doubt, because he's dyed in the wool fan of all things thrash. So started bouncing for The American Way, and then just by the end of Sacred Reich's set, the bouncing had gave way to bobbing, and the bobbing had gave way to a little bit of bop, like a pogo, to use Evan Seinfeld's word. And I was in full-on headbanging by the end of their set. I got speaking to their guitarist, Joey, very, very briefly afterwards. Took a picture with Joey and the book, which you can see my last remaining copy of the book here. And here's a picture of Joey with the book. Super cool guy. I've also got a photograph I can show you now of the lads from Sepultura with the book as well. I no longer have the copy of the book that appears in these photographs because I gave it to Evan Seinfeld of Biohazard, courtesy of a lovely woman I met queuing for the signing earlier in the day named Helen. Hiya, Helen. If you're watching this, it was lovely meeting you, and we will speak again. So Sacred Reich were brilliant. Bloodbath were up next, and a little bit of an outlier, Bloodbath, for some reason, possibly because they were a reasonably last-minute replacement for Malevolence. And I loved Bloodbath and always have loved Bloodbath, but it seemed a strange fit, sandwiched between Sacred Reich and, can you hear those birds right outside the window? Sandwiched between Sacred Reich and Biohazard. But they were terrific. It's always a treat to see Axe on drums. I haven't seen Axe since years and years ago with Opeth. Oh, those birds are making such a racket. They're invaders. That's not their nest. I'm talking about death metal. Bird's gonna bird. But yeah, they were great. Now, to the caveat, Biohazard were absolutely brilliant, but can I give a special fuck you to the toothless prick up at the front with the stinky dreads that was just making everybody's evening hell. All I would like to offer you is my sincerest wish that your remaining days be long and joyless. But Biohazard were incredible. That was probably the best set I've ever seen. The energy, Billy literally standing on the crowd at one stage. Billy Grazide is the man. Danny Schuler, getting to watch Danny play drums from so close. Like, I'm in the second row and he's got his tiny little Gretsch kit. Did his own sound check. Just Deluxe is my guy. Bobby's still spinning and Evans just up there looking like a motherfucking action figure. Biohazard could not have been any better, and I think they kind of sucked the energy out of the crowd, as in not suck the energy out of the crowd, but like, I can't speak for everybody, but I was fucking drained afterwards. And by the time Sepultura came on, I think it took the crowd a little while to get warmed up again, and it did come, and they were outstanding. Derek in particular, I don't know how a guy of advancing age keeps the power in his voice. Honestly, it's the best I've ever seen him. I've seen Sepultura a bunch of times, and Grayson's getting better and better, which is beautiful to see on this last stretch. I mean, they've only got, I think, maybe 10 more shows, if even. Paolo, always great. Andreas, a guitar god, literal legend. Don't think he gets quite the props that he's owed for being as proficient and musical as he is, as well as like a riff monster. And it was brilliant seeing Sepultura for what is going to be the last time, and it was a great night. But like I said, I'm in agony, so I'll try and rattle through things as quickly as possible. So, stuff of the week, I've changed it from album of the week. I'm going to expand the scope a little bit, because all kinds of stuff is good. You'll see me and Aaron talking a little bit later on about Bolt Thrower. But we were talking a little bit about Realm of Chaos, and so my stuff of the week this week is this first press of Realm of Chaos with hype sticker. Oh, what's that? Is it Gatefold, Paul? Yes, it is the Gatefold. So that's the original Games Workshop artwork, and we do indeed have in here the original booklet, which I don't think I'm going to be able to go through on camera because it's too floppy. But look, there's just a little inclination of the kind of beautiful art that you'll get in there. No, me and Aaron were talking about White Dwarf magazine and Bolt Thrower's use of the Games Workshop art on Realm of Chaos, and the joy of being able to just like look at these covers and find something new every time, with all the little guys and beasts in anguish. I was saying to a friend of mine recently, this is my favourite thing on any piece of Bolt Thrower artwork, is just this fucking behemoth in the background here. What does he look like? I don't know, but he's far away. He's shrouded in the smoke of battle, and he's enormous. But we were talking about how whenever the rights for that expired around about 2002, I think, Games Workshop wouldn't relicense it to Eric, so they commissioned new artwork by the original artist, John Sibic, and it's great too, and distinct enough, legally distinct enough from the original Realm of Chaos art. Another bit of trivia for you as well, the Realm of Chaos artwork also appeared on the cover of, I don't know if it was a game book, I don't really know how Warhammer stuff works, but it looks like this, so it did appear elsewhere. So that's stuff of the week number 1. Stuff of the week number 2 is kind of a bit of a dream release of mine. Dead Man's Shoes has come out. I haven't even taken it out of the shrink wrap yet. This came out on Monday. So can you see that? Second Sight put that out. Look at how chunky that thing is. So we've got the film, we've got a whole bunch of new extras, new commentary from Mark Herbert and Shane Meadows, new interviews with the guys. There's a graphic novel adaptation in there which I've never seen. There's a book full of essays, liner notes, there's some art cards and stuff like that. But I am delighted that Shane Meadows' catalogue, which is arguably the finest catalogue of a British filmmaker since Alan Clark, possibly beyond Alan Clark. He hasn't done as much work as Clark did, but Shane's stuff is, Shane is as good as it gets for me. And Dead Man's Shoes on Blu-ray looked fucking rubbish, and it didn't have any of the extras from the DVD edition. So it's the newest edition I've got on my shelf behind me over there somewhere is the old Optimum DVD copy. So everything from that is on this, plus a bunch of new stuff. I think it was last summer that the BFI put out a really, really nice new transfer of 24/7. So they've leapfrogged Room for Romeo Brass, which is probably still my favourite of Shane's films. But I'm hoping that'll get a look in at some stage. But I like that we're now in this era of what they sometimes call boutique Blu-ray, media releases of reissuing classic films with packages of new extras and spending a bit of money on getting critics and experts to come in and talk about these things, and sometimes getting the original filmmakers and actors and cast and crew and all that stuff involved. And yeah, we're getting a little bit of an unexpected focus on Shane, even though it's coming from different companies, BFI and Second Sight. There's no companies, and he's in great hands, and I would love to see the whole gamut of Shane's work reissued in this format. Romeo Brass is at the top of my list if they can get that out with some new stuff. Maybe get Andrew Shim involved, get Paddy Considine to do something. I don't know. Frank Harper, Going Dark. So yeah, that's the stuff of the week. Anything else I got to cover? Got to plug some upcoming shows, I guess. All being well. Let's not jinx anything. One that I do have in the can is Sam Lyons from Ackercock, Alan Athrak voices, Shrines. I have forgot one. Antichrist Imperium is going to be next week's guest. I've got a few more bookings coming up, real exciting stuff, including my first 2 non-musical guests. But I don't know. I think I've announced shows before that haven't come to pass because of delays in scheduling and stuff. And again, I could have told you months ago that I was going to be speaking to Aaron Stainthorpe next week and didn't. So yeah, I'll not plug anything other than Sam's show, which is coming up next week. But if you do see that and you do enjoy it, there are more from the ACT guys on the show, and there'll be more to come as well. So I'm going to take a quick break now, after which I'll see you for some of my usual promotional considerations for friends of the show. As always, friends, The False Face is presented in association with Mental Health for Metalheads, which looks like this. Beautiful hand-painted cover art by Ed Repke. The link to buy the book is in the description below. You'll also get interior art from John Cowan, aka 1024, and most recently of Murrow. And the book has over 666 things that you can practice to try and improve your mental well-being, and it comes thoroughly and forcefully endorsed. Grab it. The show is also proudly presented in association with Barker's Blastfest, an all-day death metal extravaganza taking place in October in Manchester, to raise money for Nick Barker's GoFundMe campaign. More details about Blastfest are available if you follow the links that you can see on screen. Welcome back. Let's get to Aaron. Enjoy this. I hope you'll enjoy it. We enjoyed ourselves. I think we had a great old chat. I think again, as often happens with me, we were booked for an hour. We spoke for close to 2.5, while with the poor man had to get up to get on the boat to come over here, not to me specifically, but to Ireland at 2:30 in the morning, which was extraordinarily gracious of him. But as Rick Maya told me, he's a pro. So in terms of Towards the Sinister, guys, I've got chats on the channel now with Aaron, Rick, and Adrian Jackson was on the show last week. So there'll be a playlist promoting those at the very end of this video, but you can go off and find that in your own time. And indeed, if you like what you see, this kind of long-form conversational deep dive style is what The False Face is for. So if you like the video, please tell YouTube and give them one of these. If you want to subscribe, that'll not hurt, and also you'll get to see what else is coming up. Comments in the chats are not only invited but encouraged. there are at least 2, maybe 3 moments in this upcoming video with Aaron in which we specifically invite comments in the chat, because there are questions that we don't have the answers to, and you'll see those if you keep your eyes and ears peeled. So somebody out there has probably got the answers for these. I'm a nerd, I know my stuff. I have got a, you can't see that, but you can hear it, there's a stack of records sitting beside me there, just so I had visual reference points for some of this stuff. But I who can know everything, you know? So if you can out nerd me on some of the questions that I had for Aaron, please do let us know in the comments, and let's connect. And you can go off and find me on social media, as a bunch of you have done, and we can talk about stuff other than what's on the channel. And it's really, really nice to just make those connections. So if you choose to spend any of your time in the false face, I appreciate it enormously, and that's, you know, no fooling. That's from the bottom of my heart. Thank you all for sharing this with me. It's really nice to be doing this show for people that are enjoying it, and I'm on a little bit of a roll with this Towards the Sinister thing at the minute as well. It's nice having a series of conversations around an extremely significant musical event that's important to me, and it's important to a great many other people as well. So thank you. It's a stone cold gas to have you, and if you like it, tell a pal, and I'll hit my pointers. Like and subscribe. Love yous. See you next time. How you getting on?
Yeah, just packed my bag ready for setting off to the Emerald Isle at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, we've got a ferry at 7. But looking forward to it. I've got family down in Gorey, County Wexford, so I'm there for 4 days, staying at it's the closest thing I've got to, like a, don't know, family home, I suppose. Because on this side, we moved around every 2 years because my father was in the army.
All right, yeah.
But the Irish side of the family just set up roots down there and have never moved. So yeah, you go there and it just feels like home. I absolutely love it.
It's been the same location for like a long time then?
No. I mean, for me, it's a long time because the longest I've ever lived anywhere was about 5 years.
Okay.
For them, gosh, late 60s. So again, it's not ancient, but
is this
it's
where
just
you
great being there.
Is this where you shot the cover for I Am the Bloody Earth? It was a photograph taken in Ireland somewhere, wasn't it?
That is there, yeah, a long time ago. So they ran a mushroom farm, and that was where the main income came in. But when supermarkets really started to battle it out, they weren't paying anybody enough, so they had to diversify. So they got quite a lot of land. They built like a theme park, but not one with rides and electronic stuff, like a wooden theme park.
Okay.
With like forts and castles and rope bridges across the water and a boating lake with, canoes and stuff like that. And the picture from I Am the Bloody Earth came from on the opposite side of the lake where the woodland was. In the woodland was quite scary. They called it the fairy wood.
Uh-huh.
And one of them would dress up in some sort of wizardy outfit. And the kids would be ushered in and sit on these carved toadstools. And up all the trees, there must have been about 10 skulls of animals that just passed away on their land. So they nailed all the skulls up there. And I just took a photo of the one I thought was the nicest. And yeah, it ended up being used for I Am the Bloody Earth. So it's funny how holiday snaps can end up going elsewhere.
I've wanted to ask you that question for years. Because you'd said at some stage that it was shot over here somewhere, and I thought, Ireland, that's where I'm from. And sometimes we have this very small town mentality, which applies to the whole Ireland, the whole of the two Irelands. Let's not get political, but the whole island, shall we say?
I'm going to do a little piece of camera, just to say, for those who are interested, just over the other side of that lake, in that woodland area, was where the cover of I'm the Bloody Earth was shot. It's not there anymore, unfortunately. It would be great if it was still there.
Yeah.
But it's not. But, I'm going to do a little piece and stick it on the socials.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I probably would have cheekily suggested something like that. So perhaps we're on the same wavelength.
There we go.
How did you enjoy Opeth last weekend?
Opeth PL Catatonia. It was
Yeah.
great. I mean, it was my hometown. I walked in. Um, I went to the Greyston Unity first, a very cool little pub where there was a pop-up shop where there was old PL Opus Catatonia merch being sold off because I think Northern
Oh.
Music moved from their old office to the new office, discovered a whole load of merch, not really sure what to do with it. So an event like this was absolutely perfect. So
Hmm.
people poured into the pub and bought all sorts of stuff that's way out of date. And it was very successful. My friend Bob was running it. So I had a chat with Bob, bumped into all kinds of people. The town is absolutely packed. Every pub, every cafe is packed full of fans.
Yeah.
Doors opened at 6. I was in there at 5 past 6 because it was a quick turnaround for Catatonia.
Hmm.
I think they were on at 20 past 6. So, there's people still queuing out there
Yeah.
who probably missed half the set, but it was great. All three bands were fantastic. The setting at the Peace Hall is absolutely marvelous. And then lucky enough for me, because I know the management, I got invited to the after show party, which was wonderful. And I've not seen Michael Ackerfeld for years. And he was the first person I saw, and we had a massive hug. And then we sort of just sat down, had a glass of wine, and spent the next hour chatting and catching up and talking about he's got kids, I've got a kid. And it was just like two old men reminiscing
Yeah.
while getting a little bit tipsy. It was a lovely day.
Yeah, I went to see them the night after in Dublin in the Grand Canal Theatre, and it was a completely seated venue, beautiful old scarlet red building,
Yeah.
um, which on one hand is unsuitable for that type of music, but at the same time it's perfectly suitable for that kind of music. We didn't have Paradise Lost or Catatonia; it was Hollis that were supporting, but I missed them. I headed down quite late, but it's a great set that they're touring at the minute. Very very nice balance of promoting the new record and keeping fans of the old stuff happy. But Michael's a very easy guy to talk to. I've run into Michael a bunch of times, and yeah, just really, it's not often you see a band like that are still at the top of their game this many albums into a career. You know?
Yeah, they've remained uh, at that plateau for some time, which is it's great. You all want to be like that. You want a degree of success. I think without being super famous. I'd hate to be able to not walk down the high street.
Hmm.
You know, to have security. It would be awful. Um, and I mean, I don't think they have security in their hometown, but it's nice to have enough people around the world to be able to celebrate your music and enjoy it with you without being hounded endlessly as soon as you leave your house.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody in my genre, I think, aspires to be of a similar altitude to Opeth. Some get there, most don't. But the journey is quite fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking of journeys, you're in a bit of a journey yourself at the moment. Sorry, that was such a cheap journalistic segue. I can't help myself. Big news towards the sinister. And whenever I first reached out to you, this was not news. It was news, but it wasn't news that we could actively discuss. So it's a relief to be able to ask you questions about this project openly, instead of having to sort of mask the truth as I did whenever I was speaking to Rick some months ago. Um, how are you finding the reaction to the reveal? It's got to be nice.
Being nothing but positive.
Yeah.
You always hope when you're embarking on a new journey, um, that people welcome you with open arms, but it's no guarantee. So you still, you keep your fingers crossed and you just hope that you've got all the right ingredients in the right place, the right people, the right music. And you're just never sure. People might think, what's the point? Um, and other people would be absolutely in rapture, absolutely love it.
Hmm.
But it seems to be the loving it thing, particularly when we decided that we're only going to focus on the first four albums
Yeah.
and the in-between EPs, because the rest of the guys, they weren't involved in writing anything after that, and they're not interested in playing anything they didn't help write.
Hmm.
They helped write the first four albums, so they want to play the first four albums. So we're going to, and it's something we're all very much looking forward to.
Was there any discussions at any stage of perhaps expanding that window a little bit, because the guys all left the group at different stages? So if you take it like one album forwards, then obviously Calvin was still responsible on 34.788 for some of the writing, and Aid was with you right up to Line of Deathless Kings? Or was it very much a case of the common denominator where all the guys were there for the last time was like God, so it's just, quick and easy cut, that's where we stop?
Well, I've been singing all of them, obviously, so I'm
Hmm.
going to leave that decision up to those guys.
Yeah.
They all obviously are aware that I'm going away for a few days, and I've just said, right, you do the t-shirt designs, you work on the posters, you guys do everything. Well, I do absolutely nothing. um, but they're happy to do that, and I will suggest. I thought I may have suggested it in the past, but come to think of it, perhaps I didn't. Or maybe it was over a beer and we all forgot. Maybe they do have a think about doing something beyond the fourth album. But that's entirely up to them.
Hmm.
I've been doing all the music for 30, I think 32 years. So it's up to them if they want to learn something new. I think it's only Rick who'll be learning, you know,
Yeah.
very new stuff. And he's such a brilliant drummer. I mean,
Ah,
the guy's a machine. He's absolutely amazing. And he's almost embarrassed when you compliment him, you know, which you can't help gushing
yeah.
at his talent. He gets all his hair's in front of his face and he goes, "Oh, stop it. I'm just, no,
Yeah.
it's not, I'm not even a real drummer."
Yeah.
And it's like, really? Okay, what does a real drummer look like? And he's a lovely bloke, he really is. So if he doesn't want to learn something new, that's absolutely fine. But the other guys might fancy a punt at it. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I mean, we even with the 4 albums and the EPs, that's a lot of
There's
a
a
lot
lot.
of music.
Yeah.
And typically, when we announced it, we already have the set list nailed down.
Hmm.
And of course, there's hundreds of people asking for songs that are not on the set list,
Yeah.
but they will be. Yeah, we intend to get through as as many as the early albums as possible. Most of the songs we're going to try and have a go at,
Hmm.
but obviously we can't do them all. They're long songs, and some of the festivals will only be playing for 40 minutes or something like that, and some other festivals want us for an hour and a half. So we've learned about an hour and 20. I'll throw in some jokes to flesh it out.
Yeah, of
And
course.
and then we'll probably play this set list, I don't know, for a year, I guess, and then perhaps start introducing one or two other songs. But we will get through the good majority of that early canon at some stage. But we've got to learn to walk before we can run.
I'll start in with one of my super nerdy questions, if you don't mind. Uh, did you guys ever play Sexuality of Bereavement live that you can recall?
No, I don't think so. I think we did bitterness and bereavement,
Hmm.
but I don't think we did sexuality.
Yeah, because it's got all
Um,
that backmasking of the drums. Everything kind of fades in before it's hit. So live, obviously, there's no way to replicate. It's a complete studio effect. And then obviously with Ghost's vocals, you would have to. I suppose you could just do double duty on that, but that would be an interesting deep cut.
yeah, I've not been there for a long, long time. I can't remember how that song goes at all. I forgot Ghost was even on it.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a long, long time ago. But yeah, we're going to relive all that stuff because even with the set list we've got now, some of those songs I haven't played for a long time. I mean, the
Hmm.
rest of the boys haven't played them for decades.
Yeah.
Um, and when you pick the set list, and picking a set list is really difficult when you've got so much material. And we were all trying to shoehorn our favorites in there, and you realize, look, ideally, we'd need to play for 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's so impractical. We're not Bruce Dickinson. Who's the other one? Bruce Springsteen. We don't have that luxury, and I'm not sure I can sing for 4 hours. So you've got to make do with what you've got. And we all argued a little bit in a friendly way about, oh, we got to have this one, and oh yeah, but we need this one as well. It's like, hold on a minute, we're at 2.5 hours, but all the best songs are there. It's like we've got to shave some of these songs off. We can do them again in a year's time or whatever. So So when we did get the set list nailed, I put the music on my phone and I took it to the gym and I listened to these songs, some of them for the first time in a long, long time. But the words came back to me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that muscle memory kicks in, and it was great. And I just you realize, without blowing my own, trumpet, the songs were great. The
Yeah.
songs were great, and it's just a pleasure to hear them again. I'm glad that a lot of the words came back, not all of them, but a lot of them, because I was dreading having to learn them all from scratch. Like because when I was younger, I tried to I wanted to show off a bit with my literature. And when you look at songs like Symphonia Infernus,
Mm.
there's nothing repeated. There's no chorus.
Yeah.
None of the riffs are repeated. And we did that on quite a lot of songs where there were no guitar solos. They weren't the typical structure you would expect from a rock band. There were no guitar solos. There were no choruses. Nothing was repeated. And now, when you try and learn them, you shake your head and think, what on earth were we thinking?
Yeah.
How on earth do we learn this? Thankfully, it all came back to me. But the other, particularly the newer members, keys, violin, and the other guitar, I mean, they must be scratching their heads at some point while trying to listen to this stuff, thinking, I don't really know what's going on here.
Yeah.
We have our first rehearsal in September, 2 days. I've asked them, try and learn the set list as well as you can. We will make mistakes at that rehearsal. I will make mistakes. Everybody will. And when we get there, I will break the ice immediately by introducing everybody and telling them all straight away, we're all going to fuck up. We are all going to fuck up here. That's why we're here. So if it happens and you know why, fine. If you don't know why, we'll stop and we'll iron it out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know some people, I think before AI, have figured out the score for a lot of the instruments, and it's available online somewhere. So some of the people who can read music are getting it from there, which is great. I'm pretty sure AI might be able to do that now, but again, some people don't read music; they just go by ear. So when you're trying to listen to an album, you're straining your ears to hear every note, and it doesn't always work out like that. You think you know it, then when you get to the noise of rehearsal, you realize it's not that. Whatever it is I've been learning for the last 3 weeks, it ain't that. But Calvin's there, obviously.
That's what I was going to say. The great thing is that you've got the guys in the room who, if they didn't write the parts, they wrote some of the parts, not others, but they're there to
Exactly.
to pass that on. Because let's just say I've noticed with bands over the years where I've seen musicians playing parts incorrectly because there was nobody in the band to show the new guys how it was done. I'm just going to name names. It's Cradle of Filth. There's just nobody there anymore from when a lot of those early albums were written. So I've seen like the bass player, and he did like a run through of one of the songs, but he had to kind of say in the introduction, like, this is the best that I can figure out how the parts were written. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. He's done a really fucking good job of it. He's a brilliant bass player, but yeah, you don't have that handover. For tech.
And something from band, and they had, like extreme black metal lyrics, but nobody wrote them down. It's like, all right, guys.
Well, this was a thing with Obituary.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't used to. He didn't write the. I don't know if there were lyrics. I think they were just sounds that sounded like sentences.
I know. I wish I'd have done that.
Yeah,
Because you can rock up at any live show, you can't get the words wrong.
your stuff is fantastic though, and sometimes it's obtuse enough, Aaron, where I'll sometimes sit and read your lyrics and enjoy just the sound and the appearance of them, but I can't figure out how does this sentence relate to the next sentence. That it's not storytelling sometimes particularly with the older stuff. You mentioned Symphony and Furnace there. It's beautifully composed poetry, but it is like it's completely inscrutable. So like you say, you're not doing yourself any favors having to recall that and then perform it and live it and believe it in a live
Sometimes
setting.
I like to tell a story sometimes with
Yeah.
a proper narrative that the listener can follow. You're right. I did that further down the line. The Blue Lotus is
Of
just
course, yeah.
it's just a story. Um, but yeah, some of the early stuff, I have in mind a vision, and rather than try and explain it, I think I'm explaining it with words, and what I want is for the listener to close their eyes and just listen to line after line after line after line, and that should generate, I hope, an image, obviously quite a bleak image, because it's like on Symphonia, you're describing hell to some degree,
Hmm.
rather than going, oh, it's a bit fiery,
Yeah, it's hot.
some imps and demons about, and pitchforks up the arse.
Hmm.
I would prefer to just throw words around and sentences and phrases and things. So as each line is absorbed by the listener, an image pops up in your head, and then the second line adds to that, and you realize it's a nasty, chaotic place to be
Yeah.
without necessarily running a narrative.
I really like the way you've put that. The video is kind of like that as well because the imagery in the video is also very odd. And again, you can't. It's not even a case if you make a note. Okay, right. There's this shot, and then there's this thing, and this moves up, and then this is overlaid over this thing. I can even show you here. This is a. You remember this single?
Oh yeah,
That's a frame from the video.
yeah,
I think this might also be a frame from one of the videos.
probably, yeah.
And you
I
sure
think
you
so.
remember this as well? That one of you isn't real here. One of you is
Yeah,
just a black blob of ink because there were only five of you in the
that,
frame that was
that's
photographed.
right. I remember doing that. It was the early days of Photoshop, I think.
Yeah.
I remember getting into Photoshop at the very, very early days. I think Photoshop 2, not CS2,
Hmm.
but Photoshop 2, which was, decades ago. And even though that was obviously extremely simplistic,
Yeah.
we thought, well, there's five of us now, or six, I can't remember.
It was six. Yeah.
So let's just randomly create a average Joe
Yeah.
and stick him on the end there, and that's what I did, And this will be news to some people, but that's just the way we did it back then. But yeah, the chaos that I wanted people to see in my songs was designed in such a way where it was almost like you're getting a left hook,
Hmm.
and then you're getting a right hook, and then do you know what I mean? It's a literary overdose, and
Yeah.
it can be quite unpleasant, and it's disjarring as well. I'm surprised anyone who bought the records, because people want something that flows nicely. They want to, clap their hands and dance their feet,
Hmm.
and you can barely even tap your feet to My Dying Bride stuff.
Yeah.
As far as singing along goes, that was never going to happen. But it was what we wanted to do, and I think that's what kept us apart from the mainstream and everybody else. We were very awkward, and I'm surprised still, even to this day, that some of the records sold as well as they did. Turn Loose the Swans got absolute rave reviews, and I just wonder, was it a time when people needed something like that because there was so much of something else at that time?
Hmm.
Someone needed to shine a light on a new, not genre, but just something else that wasn't what everyone else was doing at that time. And I think that's what we were doing. And I think people like the fact that these guys are a bit wacky.
Mm.
Um, let's buy their records and keep an eye on what they're doing, and it worked. We toured all over the place. The record label was super happy. I mean, when you present an album to the record label and it has no 3-minute rock songs, radio
Hmm.
friendly songs, I can imagine Hammy back in the day thinking, Jesus, how am I going to sell this? Um, but he had enough bands that were already going to do that. And I think he just said, My Dying Bride can do whatever they want. And that's exactly what we did. And we had complete artistic freedom, which is very, very rare for a band signed to a record label, because quite often, I mean, the record label will bullshit to start with just to sign you. And after a while, they'll say, Come on, guys, give us a 3.5 minute clappy, clappy, happy song. We can
Hmm.
get it on US radio. Peaceville never ever said that. They just said, You keep on bashing out this weird shit, we'll keep releasing it. So we did. And lucky enough, even later in life, when we signed to Nuclear Blast, I said to the guys, I says, We're not writing stuff. Don't tell us stuff to write, because we're doing it our way. And they put their hands up and said, We're signing you because you do it your way.
Yeah.
Again, I wasn't sure if I believed them, but they didn't touch a single song. We delivered songs and they released them without question. And we've been so lucky because we know a lot of people in the business and they hate their labels.
Mm-hmm.
They move on, then they hate the new label. We have been so unbelievably lucky. The people we sign deals with let us do what we want.
Yeah, you were very lucky with Peaceful too. I mean, like Hammy, bless him, he would have put up with a lot of shit in terms of when he got the second Dark Throne album through, and he was like, "What the fuck is this? I can't release this." And Gilvy was like, "If you remix this, we're taking it to Moonfog or Deathlight Silence or whatever it was." So he had to put it out. But then, of course, it comes out and it redefines the genre, and then he kind of nurtures at the gates for all those years. And
Yeah.
then, they fuck off to Eric and release their most celebrated classic album. And it's just the foibles of labels, but like no band that was ever on Eric is still on Eric, at least out of those classic, era
And I think
groups. Like, so,
I think I might I think I'm right in thinking the show a couple of weeks ago, Opeth, Paralyssos, and Catatonia were all signed to Peaceful in the early days. Um,
Opeth joined Peaceful for about 1999. They were Candlelight first, I believe.
right.
PL would have been Catatonia. I'm nearly sure. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Um,
so when you see all three on stage together, you realize what an influential label Peaceful Records was. They put out some great stuff. And even if, like you mentioned with At the Gates, the big hits come after the band have departed. As soon as people buy a big hit, they go back and buy the back catalogue.
yeah, of course.
So, you know, Peaceville won't be miffed or annoyed that a band have gone on to have a big hit because it shifts earlier records.
I know you were interviewed for it, but did you read Hami's book?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was in it a little bit, which was great. And I was at Hammy's house a couple of weeks ago because he's doing a revised version of it.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
right. Yeah.
so we had a little chat about some stuff, but we ended up just catching up on old times and just having a laugh that we never actually got around to doing the interview. So, but he only lives 15 minutes away. So when he's ready, I'll just go over. We'll have a coffee and we'll get it done. But yeah, the book's great. I'm not sure why he's doing a revised version of it. Perhaps there's some juicy gossip he's just discovered and he wants it to get out there. I don't know. Um,
I think the version that I read is a revised version, which would make this the third
oh, I
edition
didn't know
of the
that.
book. So he must just keep finding new, stories to share. But it's an essential read for anybody that's interested. Put it this way: if anybody's watching this video, this type of channel, they'd probably be interested in reading that type of book. So
Yeah, definitely.
anything for a peaceful life is highly recommended.
Yeah, it's a great book.
What was I going to ask you about? All kinds of things. You don't mind, hopefully, Aaron, if we jump about the place as things come to me, because obviously we're
That's
going
fine. Yeah.
back 30 plus years for the MDB stuff, but then up to date things too. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your artwork. What was the first piece that you did for the band in terms of the full cover? Would have been Thrashed Naked Limbs, would it?
Yeah, I think so because I never imagined we'd get Dave McKean to do the early stuff.
Hmm.
He was one of my favorite artists, and of course, back then there was no internet.
Hmm.
And I just said to Peaceville, "Look, there's an artist I like called Dave McKean. No idea how you get hold of him. If you can somehow see if he's interested in doing the first record, which was Symphonaire, then it'd be great. Thinking this is going nowhere, but you can ask, right?"
Yeah.
And a few weeks later, Hammy said, "Yeah, Dave's interested. Send in the lyrics and he'll knock something up." And I was like, couldn't believe it. Amazing. Uh, and although I never met Dave, we developed quite a positive relationship because he was absolutely as keen as mustard to do the first album
Hmm.
as well. Um, but after the first EP, everybody loved it.
Yeah.
And everyone was knocking on Dave McKean's door saying, "Do ours, do ours, do ours." And when we did the first album, I think it came out just before the mad rush of Dave McKean covers.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know we got in there first. Um, and then of course, and I would do the same thing. Dave put his prices up
Hmm.
because that's business, and we couldn't really afford him after that. But I thought, well, perhaps I can mimic some of the style of
Yeah.
Dave McKean. So I took a punt and the rest of the band were gracious enough to let me have a go at it. And yeah, this was before Photoshop, I think. And I went around with a camera and I photographed all sorts of interesting things. And then this was in the days when you took the camera film to a chemist and you had to wait a week for the photographs to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take the photographs and the negatives, and I'd put vinegar on the photos and scratch them, put the negative on top of the photo with some light, and I'd photograph that, send it off to the chemist, wait 7 days
Yeah.
to see the results. And it was very hit and miss, but I wanted I wanted something, but I didn't really know what. So I took elements of all the photographs I'd taken and just chopped them all up, found the best, most interesting parts, then laid them down on a flat surface, got above them with the camera, and again I took loads of photographs, slowly moving in. I took it to the chemist, waited 7 days, and the images came back, and we found one we loved. And then you give that photo and the negative to Peaceville and say, right, do your magic. And that's how I did it. It was laborious, but I enjoyed it. I'm not sure I'd like to do it now, but when it takes a month to do an album cover, it seems insane now, but back then that was the way we did it.
And plus, obviously, with that weight, I'm just old enough to remember developing film in the chemists like that, and you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know what it's gonna look like whenever it comes back. You've got no preview function for anything at all, But
that's why I always played with the lighting. I tried to make sure everything was well lit, and then not quite so well lit, because you wanted contrast.
Yeah.
You wanted shadows. You didn't want something that was perfectly well lit.
This is the one we're talking about here, isn't it?
That's the one. Yeah.
That was your first piece, yeah.
Yeah, that rust on the top right. I worked in a plastic factory back then, and I went up to the old attic space, I suppose, where all the retired pieces of engineering machinery were all left, but they were all a bit too mechanical. I photographed loads of them. Some of them covered in cobwebs looked like mechanical monsters.
Yeah, I've got one. I've took a photograph out in the backyard of like a manhole cover that's rusted, and then so within the hole that the rust has made, there's cobwebs underneath, and if you shine light on it in just the right angle, it looks like a kind of like a nebula or a galaxy or something like that. But again, if you showed anybody the picture, they could never tell what it was, and that's the beauty of it. Where you obscure the source of what you're actually looking at, then the truth becomes something else.
That's it. So yeah, while I was up there, I found some rusty bits of metal. There must be. I've still got the photograph somewhere. There's probably 10 versions of that cover.
Yeah.
With the rust on that side, on the bottom, the dead moths will have been moved around, just slightly different colors. I still have all those things, which is nice. Perhaps I should, I don't know, do a thing one day.
You should do a thing, Aaron. I agree. Do a thing. Did you tell Dave McKean whenever you first reached out to him, or whenever the label did, that you'd ripped off one of his pieces for the demo cover?
No, I didn't, because we altered it in such a fashion that when I went back to the book to show Peaceville, because Peaceville wanted the artwork to release the demo on vinyl, I think.
Yes, I have that here.
So so they needed the big version.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll dig the book out and scan it in at a higher resolution. And when I read through the book, I couldn't find it.
I've got it, Aaron. It's at the back.
I had to focus on it, and then when I found it,
you can see. Can you see that? Okay, I'll get this properly shopped in whenever I'm finished. But it's because it's an unused piece. You see, it wasn't from the original release. It was from the back. This is the back matter in the special edition or something. So that might have been why you had a hard time finding it. But
yeah, because that doesn't look like that in my book.
Yeah.
So anyway, we I think we altered it enough to get out of copyright issues, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm not in the band anymore anyway, so tough shit.
You're not in the band anymore. Aaron, you can politely or non-politely decline to answer this question, but I have noticed recently online there are quite a number of what appear to be very well-informed and detailed accounts of your exit from My Dying Bride, albeit from unconfirmed sources. And I wondered whether you wanted to talk about that at all, if you think there's anything to be said that you haven't said before, whether there would be any catharsis in speaking about that. Um, yeah, there's a question buried in there somewhere, I think.
Yeah, no, that doesn't bother me anymore. I've moved on. Yeah, obviously, I was gutted when I mean, it was a misunderstanding, which they don't believe, but it is what it is. And I tried to prove that it was a misunderstanding. They weren't interested. So I think they wanted me out. I don't know why, a long time before that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it happened. I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe it. Luckily, I had high parasite to sort of catch me as I fell,
Yeah.
which was great. And then Mark Deeks approached me about doing maybe some keyboard stuff, singing My Dying Bride song. So I thought, okay, it's not necessarily over, me
Yeah.
and My Dying Bride music. So we did a few things together. It was great. And I mean, I don't care what they say about me now. We all know why it happened and how it happened. If they want to spout some bullshit, well, that would be the measure of those people. I'm not getting into any online spat, because you will just bury yourself if you do that. Everyone will laugh their socks off, and it's no good for anybody. So, I mean, I don't follow any of them anymore. I'm not interested in anything they've got to say. By kicking me out, they showed their cards. If they want to continue to beat me, that's absolutely fine. But I think the more people who see that will realize what kind of a band they've turned into.
I think that started to happen. And the details that inform me saying that are really, really specific in regards to the minutiae of some of the discussion on some of the social media platforms. And it's petty, Aaron, and to be honest with you, you're in the absolute right place by not looking at it and not engaging with it. But it's still out there. It's very one sided. It's coming from one. It's coming from one voice. And I've run afoul of it simply for the heinous crime of having a conversation with Rick Maya several months ago. But you alluded to there possibly the the chance that an opportunity was seized perhaps to oust you from the band, and you said that maybe that might have been going on for some time. I mean, how long are we talking there?
Oh God, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, Andrew would say to me, "Look, if you're going to leave, at least give us plenty of notice."
Mm-hmm.
I've no intentions of leaving. What are you talking about? I would never leave My Dying Bride. And I said that right till the end, which is why they had to kick me out. I had no reason to leave, because I've done nothing wrong, despite whatever BS they're going to come out with. But as I say, I've already moved on. I've got a hat load of exciting things ahead of me. And to get back with, I've not seen Rick for 20 years. I've not seen Aid for 15 years. Or actually, he showed up out of the blue when we shot the video. Your broken
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he rocked up with a drone, and I was like, I did a double take. I didn't recognize him at first, because obviously the last time I saw him, he had dark hair and a kind of small beard.
Yeah.
And I was like, bloody hell, Aid. So that was probably 10 years ago. Calvin, more so, because he actually tour managed My Dying Bride for a good amount of time, and then rejoined for a bit. But just being in the company of these people who, we've been through loads and loads of stuff, and just to get back together, we're not kids anymore. We're all mature gentlemen, and it's just nice to be in each other's company and just enjoy chatting and working together, and singing the songs we helped write. There's nothing better than that. And by no means am I turning my back on High Parasite. I absolutely love High Parasite. We've got a gig, not Wednesday, the Wednesday after, or Thursday after, somewhere in France. And it's absolutely great. It's quite nice to have the slowness and sincerity of My Dying Bride, and then the madcap lunacy of High Parasite, which is it's such energized music. I absolutely love it. And then, I've still got things with Mark and Joe Quayle
Of course.
that we're doing. So yeah, there's all sorts coming, and I'm just, I'm 57 years old now, and I'm busier now than I've ever been. So, long may it continue.
I agree, and it's such a fortunate position to be in that, being ousted from the band like that you were in from its inception, and still having the means not only to play the music, but with the men and women that you're playing it with. That's an opportunity that doesn't come along very often, Aaron. Do you know what I mean? That's extremely
Yeah.
fortunate, and it's not just you've got some original and long-standing members with you, but it's who those guys are and what they mean to people. Like you alluded to it earlier, Rick Maya. He's one of my favorite players of all time, and I've said this to him. And like you said, he blushes, but it's nobody plays drums like Rick Maya. Aid is so important to the sound of those records. And Calvin, obviously, Calvin said in an interview years ago that My Dying Bride's the only band that he ever wanted to be in, and the only band that he ever was in. And to all intents and purposes, it looks like that's essentially still going to be the case, and you're going to find yourself possibly, Aaron, in a strange situation where, for legal reasons, you are referred to as Towards the Sinister, but you're bound to think of yourselves to an extent as My Dying Bride. You know what I mean? That you've left an entity that has that name. And again, I'm not stirring the pot, but I'm just saying there's enough DNA there for you to at
The
least still
internet,
feel like what's yours is yours. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, and the internet are all over that as well. We've seen it all, this is the true My Dying Bride. We've
Mm.
seen it writ large. My Dying Bride is nothing without Aaron. That's popped up several times. I don't read any of this stuff. People tell me about it, and I'd rather not. I don't care what gossip goes on the internet. I mean, to some degree, some of it isn't gossip, all right. But I don't want to be influenced by what people say, so I rudely pay no attention to what people say.
Hmm.
So I just focus, head down and focus on what I want to do. And this is what I want to do. And I never imagined doing it. When I was no longer in My Dying Bride, I didn't immediately think I must get back to, because I didn't know how to get hold of Calvin
Yeah.
or Rick or Aid. I had no one's email address, no phone numbers, no nothing.
Yeah.
It was only when they saw the My Dying Bride statement, they all came out of the shadows, and it was like, wow, thanks, guys. Let's
Yeah.
go for a drink. And then we went for that drink where Martin came along as well, and Dave Pybush previously from Peaceful Records
Yeah.
and Cradle of Filth. Uh, and we all had a drink. It was great. We laughed our heads off all night. It was absolutely brilliant. Then we took the photo, shoved it on the internet. The internet decided we should get back together. We touched on it and laughed it off. And then when we saw the reactions to the photograph, I got texts from all of them saying, do you
Mm.
think this might be a thing? And I was like, well, it's never even crossed my mind. I don't know. What do you think? And then we said, well, let's have another drink just to find out.
Yeah.
So we met up again, and before we had too many drinks, we said, shall we have a go? I don't think anybody. It was no one person's idea. It was just that sort of, when you look at each other
Yeah.
with that knowing look, and someone smirked and said, I think we should do this. And I'm thinking, I mean, I'd like to,
Mm.
but it's not. I mean, who are we going to get to do all the other stuff? And it was just a case of, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's agree to do something first, and once we've agreed, the other jobs in the band, we can flesh them out once the core is set. So we raised our glasses and had a little cheers, and I still didn't really think it's a pipe dream. We're never going to find a violin player.
Yeah.
How's that going to happen? Um, and then it was only through another band I've been helping out recently, Legea Wept,
Yes.
and I was chatting with Alistair, the main composer, and he said, Emma's brilliant. Ask Emma to play violin. I thought, great. I'll ask Emma. And Emma was all over it. Of course, she'd love it. Mark was the first person I contacted for keyboard duties. he's all over it. Big My Dying Bride fan, years and years. Um, and I left the guitar player up to Calvin because Calvin would have to work with
Yeah.
whoever that would be. And I think Calvin had a chat with a couple of different people and then settled on Chris Revett, um, who I've met once or twice, but only when he was selling burgers. uh, he runs his own business, Goth Burgers. The buns are black, the mayonnaise is black, the burgers are black, the gherkins are black, the ketchup is black, the wrapping is black.
I've seen this. I've seen this online. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he's
yeah.
got a stall at Fortress Fest in Scarborough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's what it
so
was.
so Chris is the other guitar, and even when it looked like we had a full band, I was still thinking, seven of us, we're
Mm.
not we're not going to make it work. How? Because I know what it's like, the small logistics that getting to an airport, right? Because Mark's almost on the Scottish border,
Yeah.
Northumberland. Chris is Whitby, Rick's in London. It's like, well, how the hell? How do we get everyone to an airport? Has everybody got a passport? There's a lot of
Yeah.
admin to go through. It's all right saying, yeah, we're going to do it, but you've got to really look at the nitty gritty. And for ages, I just thought, well, I don't think it's really going to work. It looks too difficult to put together. And I told, the other guys, Calvin, Rick, and Aid, I'm not managing this. I'm not taking this on. We're all equal footing. I need your help to help bring the other people in and to teach them what the songs are. I don't think I didn't come up with the name. I didn't come up with the logo. We bat it around between us, and it's a sort of, I guess, a democratic decision. But I'm not. I've given them as much as I have, and we are on equal footing. I don't get paid more than them.
Mm.
We're all the same because we all wrote those early songs, and I'm not taking control of it. We've got a manager, we've got a tour manager, we've got an agent, we've got all these socials sorted, and I did none of those things. So, because I don't want people saying, oh, it's Aaron's thing. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
It's the thing of 4 original core members. That's the thing whose thing it is. It
Yeah.
isn't my thing, that's for sure.
Yeah. Eloquently put. Um, Looking very far ahead into the future, I'm echoing the people here who, whenever the announcement was made formally a couple of weeks ago, you see the flood of comments. Again, you may not have seen this. So many comments like, "Where's Martin?" And I'm like, it's not enough for some people. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
this dream come true situation for people like me, and they're like, "Well, Martin's not there," and I'm like, "Come on, folks." But
Well,
oh,
Martin's got a new life.
yeah,
He's a lovely, lovely bloke. I could happily spend all day long with Martin. He thought about it to begin with and then realized, because he's been there, done it with
mm,
Cradle and My Dying Bride and possibly other bands that he may have been in as well. And he just says, guys, I'm a different person. I've got a new life. I
yeah,
don't really want to go back and relive that. And that's the way it is. We tried to persuade him a little bit, but not.
yeah.
If he
Sometimes you
made
can
his
tell
mind.
not to push. You know.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And but I always knew we were going to need a violin player. It would be weird if we tried to sing all the old songs without a violin. Um, and so here we are. We have all the elements together. Everyone's rehearsing like mad. The first rehearsal, as I say, is in September sometime. That will be the first time some of these people haven't met each other.
Yeah.
So they're going to be super nervous. I know everyone except Chris, so I'm okay. But everyone else, particularly the new members, are going to be terrified seeing not only meeting new people for the first time, but performing with them,
Mm-hmm.
afraid that if they cock up, everyone's going to laugh. Which is why I want to break the ice straight away, saying we're all going to cock up.
Yeah.
This is why we're here. We rehearse to know the songs and to iron out any cock ups. So cock up as much as you like. And it'll be, once they get to know each other, they'll settle down and become part of it, because obviously we haven't all been in the same room at the same time, so it still feels quite disjointed, even for me. I suppose until we actually announced it, I was always thinking in the back of my mind, it's not going to work. There are too many stretches of the imagination to make it work. But as I say, with the help of Rick, Calvin, and Aid, they took they took on the workload as well and made it happen. So, I very much took a backseat. They've been shooing it along quite nicely. And like I say, I'm going on holiday tonight. And I've left the merch designs, the poster designs. I've said, guys, you sort all that out. Good luck, and I'll see you in a week.
Looking very, very far into the future, obviously you're still on good terms with Hamish and Sean, who were another formidable duo in the sort of middle period of My Dying Bride, and you've performed on the latest Gotham album, and you've done some live stuff with them.
Yeah.
You'd be open to perhaps the occasional collaboration with those guys, and it would enable you to play some of the later catalog too, perhaps somewhere down the line as well.
God, I haven't thought that far in front. Yeah. No, it is funny because I did. They had an album launch gig in Leeds a month or three ago, and yeah, I sang on stage with them. Someone's got a great photo with the caption, "There's half of old school My Dying Bride on this stage."
That was my caption, Aaron. I
There we
wrote I
go.
wrote that comment.
And I didn't even realize at the time. To me, they're just old mates.
Yeah,
You know, um, the internet will put all sorts of stuff together that I don't even think about,
yeah.
which is great. But yeah, I mean, I have not thought about. I mean, I've got such a terrible memory. I can't remember when Sean was in. I know Hamish was in for 17 years.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't even know if they want to. They've got Godfrey.
that's true.
Why would they want to do that except for some sort of nostalgia trick? It certainly wouldn't be a cash grab.
No, I think even just for maybe like a song or two, if maybe both the groups were maybe on the same festival bill or something like that, but it would be very nice just to, it would be a tribute to the whole, because obviously, Aaron, the difficulty for you is that when you were ejected from that band, what was at jeopardy there was your right to perform your music from the whole period of the band. But even with Towards the Sinister, there's still that kind of cutoff point there of 1996. There's a lot of music, like we discussed earlier. The guys might decide to do some of that, but there is an awful lot of music there that you kind of, for lack of a better word, you don't have access to anymore. But the occasional leaning in of other, ex MDB parties might make that a fun reality just for the occasional 10 or 20 minutes here or there. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah, I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Mm.
All right, Godfrey end up being at the same festival as us. The thing is, the fans might quite like to see a bit of that, but you've got to remember, you've got to ask Rick, are you all right stepping aside while Sean takes on the throne?
Mm-hmm.
And, same with Calvin, they're probably going to say, not really, because it's not their nostalgia trip. It
Yeah.
would be someone else's, and they might have their nose put out a bit. So I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that the next time we go out for a drink. I don't know. But it's never crossed my mind. Those are lovely guys as well. I'd happily work with them again, but it means one of the core members, two of the core members can't do what they want to do. So
Yeah.
it's very unlikely. But yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your evolution as a frontman, because I was watching the Bloodstock footage of High Parasite earlier today, and I mean, there's no other word for it. You're costumed when you perform live with High Parasite. Like it's maybe theatrical isn't the right word, but there's such a degree of visual performance to what you do with that group. And I don't know if you can answer this question, because maybe the answer is gradually, but how did you get from the guy that couldn't bear to look at his audience when he was singing on stage and had to lie on the floor to where you are with High Parasite? Because the only time I ever saw you live, Aaron, was in Belfast round about 2011 when David from Ackercock was playing drums. And the last time I had seen any footage of you, I suppose, would have been maybe Ode to Woe, which is about 2008. So in those 3 years, you had become such a jovial onstage presence, and there was jokes with the crowd, and you introduced that the last song was the last song, and there was going to be no encore rockstar bullshit. I remember that. I was just thinking, where did this guy come from? And I'm just wondering, yeah, how did you get to that point from where you were when you were perhaps a younger man?
I think just growing up, really.
Yeah.
You know, it's I was always terrified of going on stage with My Dying Bride, and I'm sure that terror is going to come back with Towards the Sinister. But I think talking with the crowd was something I was never very good at, because I'm not a rock star. I just don't know how to do the rock star things. Plus, the music of My Dying Bride isn't, you know, it would look ridiculous if I said, all the women go yay and all the men go yo.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that genre. We're not from that genre, and
Can't put limits like that on yourself, Aaron.
no,
You get these big festival crowds coming up next summer. You can have, what is it, the party side over here, fuck you side over here. You could give some of that.
no,
You could do it.
it doesn't work with this music. Doesn't require that.
Yeah.
I could get away with it in High Parasite, but no, My Dying Bride fans don't want that. I think they want some sincerity on stage, and the only times I've said something amusing is because I'm shitting myself and it's pure nerves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to, if there's a technical fault, you're praying that the crew and whichever band member's struggling, you just hope they get it fixed ASAP, because my banter with the crowd is severely limited.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I'm going, fucking get it fixed, get it fixed. And then you just spout nervous bullshit. You can't help it. It's different with High Parasite because the music's just more energetic and fun and exciting, and the lyrics are more contemporary. They're less heavy on the heart and soul, and so it's easy. The banter is easier with High Parasite, and people expect that with that kind of a band. Even if I was moping around on stage with High Parasite, it doesn't work with the music. You sort of have to tailor your frontmanship with the music that you're stood in front of. I couldn't do the High Parasite stuff on stage while performing the music of My Dying Bride, and vice versa. I wouldn't be Aaron from My Dying Bride performing like I do in My Dying Bride for High Parasite. People would be like, what's wrong with this guy? Cheer up, mate. And so it doesn't work like that. You've just got to make sure you do the right thing with the right band. And when, I spent 30 odd years doing the dark stuff, and I spoke to Toombs, the songwriter in High Parasite. I said, I don't know what to do on stage. I have no idea what to do on stage because I've never been in a band like this before. And I think his response was something like, I can't help you there, buddy. And I'm like, well, I haven't got a clue. And I was absolutely terrified when we did the first gig in Bradford, because I knew I couldn't just stand there moping around like I've done for 30 years. But then I'm not used to moving at all.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm thrust into this electrifying, upbeat concert. And, I started to shake a leg a little bit and, move around a bit. And even then, when we look back at it, some people filmed it a bit on their phone. We looked shit because we didn't know, okay, Johnny's over there. Is Johnny coming this way? Or am I, we had no stagecraft whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what we were doing. We knew how to play the music, but we didn't know how it looked to play the music. And it was only over years, as possibly on the Cradle of Filth tour, when it was gig after gig after gig, you just became more familiar. Right, Craig's there, Johnny's there, Toombs is there, Dan's at the back. I've now bought a cordless microphone, aware of the fact that because people have started moving left and right, I've got to make sure they don't trip over my mic lead. So a cordless mic was paid for. And that allowed me much more flexibility. I can now walk all the way over there where Craig is, because Craig is now over there. So I can fill that space. And it just became natural. We just have this flow now where we're all over the stage, but in a sort of meaningful, active, energetic way. I'm not Bruce, I was going to say Springsteen, Bruce Dickinson. I'm not running around on stage. My knees won't allow me to do that.
Yep.
But there is just more character now with this sort of music. And I'm sure a lot of people look up and think, how is that Aaron from My Dying Bride? I've never seen him like this before. And I wasn't to begin with. It's just the music's brought it out of me. And long may that continue, because rather than the terror of singing the early stuff I wrote 30 odd years ago, I can't wait to get on stage with High Parasite. I love it. I look forward to the shows. Like I say, we've got a show in 2 weeks' time. If it was Towards the Sinister show, I would already start to feel the nerves.
Yeah.
With High Parasite, can't wait. Bring it on. Let me get on that stage. I love it.
Was the look there from the start with High Parasite? So when you played that first gig, did you have the white and was Tombs with the hood up and the face paint, or did that all evolve over time as well?
I think if we look at our first photo shoot, um, I I had some of the makeup on, and I think I may have had a white shirt on, but not full white suit. And I don't know where it came from. I think Toombs said something like, I've seen a cool photo, and I think it's from, I could be wrong here, it's a TV program, like a Netflixy type thing. Um, is it Constantine?
Oh
Where
yeah.
they,
Oh, I know what you. Yeah, it is Constantine per the original creator, but in the film it's pronounced Constantine. But
and it,
yeah, Keanu Reeves film.
does he wear a white suit?
Somebody in there does. Yeah.
So I think Toombs had seen it, thought that might be a good look for Aaron.
Hmm.
So straight down to Primark, and I got the jacket, the trousers, the waistcoat for about £20.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's god awful polyester. You know, the
Hmm.
jacket doesn't stay on for long. It's quite a sweaty mess. But I've tailored it, pardon the pun, a little bit more to be less sweaty. But just very, very recently, um, I've had a suit handmade for me
I saw that. Yeah.
by Kim Diller, um, and it looks fucking amazing, absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. And I get to wear it in a couple of weeks' time in France for the first time. It's all handmade. It's absolutely amazing. Even the tie is handmade, and it's the next step up, because the white suit looks fine. It's very neat, which is nice. But when you look at the outfits that the other band members have started to wear, it's starting to get, it's moving in a direction that my suit wasn't. So we had a little chat, and I thought, well, I don't want to upgrade the suit myself. I don't have those skills, but I know someone who does.
Mm.
So I got in touch with Kim, and I sent her the photos of the normal white suit, and I said, look, I love what you do. Is there any chance you can do me a white suit, but zhuzh it up a bit, rough it up a bit, because she makes loads of clothes for all those wrestling people and rock bands and everything.
Hmm.
And so she did, and it looks absolutely incredible. And it fits like a glove. You know, you can tell handmade things.
Yeah.
Absolutely fits like a glove. So I'm just hoping it's not baking hot in France, which it probably will be in 2 weeks' time. So the jacket will come off after the first song, the waistcoat will come off after the second song, the tie will come off after the third song. But it's just it's a marvelous look, and Johnny is now having some clothes made by Kim as well.
Hmm.
Toombs had a different mask in the early photos. God knows, I can't remember what it was. It was ages ago. Um, and I think he's tried a couple of different versions of different masks and has settled on one that he really likes. He's probably going to change it up a little bit over the next few years,
Yeah.
because he's always having a little look around. Who's making masks? Who's doing things a bit differently? Because the original mask was a full face, but when he sings, because the way your jaw goes up and down, the whole mask moves.
Hmm.
And because it was just the front, if it was a like a hood full head mask, it wouldn't have moved so much. But because it was just a face mask, when he sang, it bounced up and down. So we said, right, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's a half mask now. So the mask is at the top, and he paints his jaw so he can sing
Yeah. Yeah.
without
Yeah.
the mask bobbing up and down. So it's a practical point of view. But the way he does the paint around his mouth is brilliant. So yeah,
Yeah.
and the rest of the guys are just sort of slowly tagging along. I mean, Dan, bless him, he's sat at the back doing the sweatiest job.
Yeah.
Uh, so he doesn't really. I mean, he rocks up in something smart. Oh, thank you very much. A cup of tea's arrived.
Thank you
Uh,
very much, Unseen Tea Bringer.
yeah. Even if Dan had an outfit, he would strip off before the first song anyway,
Yeah,
down to shorts and his vest, because there's no point drummer being glad up to here.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, the look has evolved. The music's evolved. We've just done the second album. We've delivered it to the record label literally last weekend. But they love it, thankfully. The songs are bloody brilliant. Toombs is a magnificent songwriter.
yeah.
It's just a joy to listen to. It won't be
Dynamic's a lazy word, but it's very dynamic music.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When are you anticipating that coming out then?
We were hoping for around the Halloween time this year,
Hmm.
but the label have looked into what other releases are coming around Halloween. There's loads of them. We'd get lost.
Yeah.
So they've asked if we can hold the album back till February, when it's a relatively quiet time.
Hmm.
There's not a huge amount of things being released. So we said, yeah, it's fine. We've done our job.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and yeah, so February it comes out, and then yeah, I guess 2027 will include some of the new songs in our set, which again I'm looking forward to. I've been singing away at them for a number of months now, and it's great, And there's probably a question you were potentially going to ask later on, where there has already been an offer of High Parasite supporting Towards the Sinister.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'm able to do that yet. It would depend if maybe High Parasite did maybe 40 minutes and I did more of the clean vocal stuff and Toombs did a bit more singing.
Hmm.
Then we had a band in between us, so I can take a break, give my throat a rest, and then Towards the Sinister come on, an hour and a half later or something. And again, listening to the set list, there's a good amount of clean vocals already in the set list. So it is a possibility that High Parasite could support Towards the Sinister, providing there's a third band in the middle to
Yeah.
give me a break. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I need to rehearse it first. And if it's something that might work, then we'll see if it works.
Specifically, my question was going to be, but I guess this is something that you couldn't foresee at this stage, is if that was something you were open to, would you envisage it being difficult to change gears between bands like that because of the difference in tone of the music? You're going to have to go somewhere darker, like almost like in terms of how an actor gauges their performance. Do you have to go to a place when you're doing My Dying Bride material live?
I do, but I don't go to it. It comes to me because
Mm.
I never wanted, in those early days, I never wanted to be some miserable guy on stage, because you're in a rock band. You want a bit of rock and roll on stage. That's what you hope for.
Yeah.
But I was so terrified on those early shows. I, I think it was, the lyrics were difficult to remember. I had no idea what I'm supposed to do on stage. The content of the lyrics was emotional and hard going. Some of it was quite personal, and it's hard to stand on stage and tell a room full of people about your inner emotions.
Hmm.
It's difficult, and the gigs were all not awful, just hard work. And afterwards, felt like a huge burden had been lifted off my shoulders, and it was a huge relief. And I would when the rest of the band are all, yeah, cheers, and having a drink afterwards, what a great successful show, I'd be spending 5 or 10 minutes in a corner just
Yeah.
trying to return to planet Earth as a human being. But I never wanted it to be like that. I wanted to run on stage and go, hey everybody, let's fucking rock.
Hmm.
And it never happened. Something came over me an hour, 2 hours before we were due on stage, and I couldn't control it. The stomach's churning. I'm on the brink of vomiting. I'm absolutely filled with terror. And I always used to, in the early days, keep my passport with me in my back pocket, thinking to myself, when there's 10 minutes to go, I'm not going on stage. I'm going to grab a taxi and fuck off to the airport. I can't do this. And so some of the early gigs, I've got my passport in my back pocket
Yeah.
because I was this close to just walking out.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes you just need that little thing that suggests that there's an alternative there and you might never get there, but it gives you that little, it's almost like a safety net, you know? I could leave the country instead of performing this concert.
I know, I know. I stopped doing that years ago, obviously.
But that suggests, Aaron, your attitude suggests that to me there then, obviously, High Parasite must be a tremendous relief and thrill for you to be able to get on. I'm not saying that you're running up there and doing the whole "let's rock everybody" thing, but there is more of that. There's more of an abundant joy to it, you know.
Oh yeah, people can see it. They've seen the difference. People who've seen me in My Dying Bride and see me in High Parasite, they've seen an old man become young again.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it because, of course, everyone in the bloody band is younger than me. They give off this effervescent energy, which propels me to just be more active on stage. It's not even on stage. On the traveling towards a festival or a gig, there's a buzz in the van or the bus or the aeroplane, a little fizz going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think these are great people to be traveling with. Um, and it just makes me feel younger and joyful to be with them.
So,
And
so what you're suggesting, Aaron, is that sometimes the attitude that you see a band have on stage might be representative of what the band dynamics are like off stage. I'm being a little bit cheeky there by
well,
referring
putting
to
words
your.
in my mouth,
Yes,
but
I was very much. No, I
yeah,
take that back. What I was going to suggest to you was if you're thinking about with this gig in France coming up and being roasting and you're shedding white layer after white layer after white layer, you could work yourself all the way down to the Cry of Mankind video, Jesus Nappy. And that leads me on to asking a very sincere question, although framed in the most ridiculous way. Um, what is your relationship with Christ? And I don't mean are you a religious person, but Christ comes up an awful lot in your earlier works and in some of the later works. And I'm thinking even there's a couple of tracks in the Dreadflowers, obviously the title track, Return to the Beautiful, I suppose, being a reworking, but there's a suggestion there of the it's not even the age old battle, it is the original kind of battle. That's probably the closest thing approaching a profound question that I've got on my list here is, yeah, what is your relationship with Christ?
he's all right.
He's all right, isn't he?
Cradle have got that shirt. We should have one where he's all right.
Do it, do it. I can even tell you the name of the font.
Yeah, no, it's just you look you look at inspiration when you write. I was terrible at maths at school, but I loved English literature. I don't know how. I just did. I loved the books. I devoured everything that the teacher threw at us. And I was that guy in class, when it was everybody's reading the book and the teacher picks someone to read the next bit and
Yeah,
everyone's dreading it. And I'm like that, ooh, ooh,
yeah.
pick
Both,
me, pick
both,
me.
both hands up.
Yeah, I read it all out and I loved it. And I did the voices and everything, whereas most people just give this monosyllabic delivery. And I was doing all the voices and I absolutely loved it. And I read all the books and then I'd go from that to next lesson's mathematics, and I would be in a classroom full of, well, I can only say morons, and I must have been one of them. Just people who don't know numbers.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at numbers. To me, numbers are a foreign language. But it was the English language that kept me afloat. And then I had no imagining that I would ever be in a band. I just liked writing poems because I was reading poems.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the idea to form a band came about, I thought, well, you three guys can play instruments, so I'm probably going to be the singer. Now everyone's singing about slaughtering virgins and shit like that. I think I'd quite like to do a bit of Byron and Shelley,
Mm-hmm.
or my version at least of what they did. And it seemed to be a hit. It seemed to really work. And when you read the classics, religion pops up from time to time, and it's dealt with in different fashions, in different ways, lightly, darkly, amusingly. And I thought, well, I'm going to introduce a little bit of that into my life. My mum was a Roman Catholic. My father, an atheist, a Yorkshireman through and through, couldn't give it. Even though we lived in God's own county or
Yeah.
country, he wasn't bothered. But mum liked a dabble, um, And again, I'm going to see my auntie, and she goes to church.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't I don't slag off the church. I wonder why it's there,
Hmm.
and I wish it would help more. We all know the Vatican is worth billions.
Yeah.
Well, what about all the starving? Anyway, so I've read, of course, I haven't read all of the Bible. I've got a life to live.
Hmm.
But you pick apart, you pick the best bits, the bits that pop up in the Omen and other bits like that, and you immediately get in there and have a little look at them. And I pick, I pick the bits I want to talk about, and I talk about them. There's always a bit of conflict. You're never there bashing one side.
Yeah.
There's always the chance for the other side to have a show of some shape or other. Um, and I just enjoyed that, and it was in all the music I listened to, from classical music to obviously heavy metal. Um, and that light, dark squabbling is always happened. And so I thought, well, let's happen in My Dying Bride songs as well. Why not? But just treated, I think, more sensitively than, cutting off priests' heads and
Yeah.
all that sort of nonsense. So I dealt with the subjects in a more theatrical fashion, I suppose, because again, as a lover of poetry, I couldn't just write choppy, choppy, chop, chop, stab, stab. I
Hmm.
had to do it, in my own way. And so, yeah, in a lot of my songs, quite a lot of people die, but not in that way.
Hmm.
It's they're not so much killed as taken from us,
Yeah.
which is a completely different thing. And then you think to yourself, well, why have you taken that person from us? Why would God do such a thing?
Hmm.
And then someone says, well, God picks the best people for himself. And you think, well, I can see a flaw in that.
He's putting a band
Uh,
together.
yeah. So yeah, they all Jesus and a bunch of saints, and
Yeah.
they all popped up in my songs, and they've all,
It's a tremendous sense of sympathy in the Dreadful Hours, though, with the tiny son and all of
yeah.
that. I always thought that, being in a band that heavy and daring to offer a sympathetic view on what may be the story of Christ was really, really exceptionally, I don't want to say brave, but you know what I mean? It's uncommon, let's say that. Aaron, how are you fixed for time? I've a handful more of My Dying Bride questions here for you, if you've
Yeah, we're all
nowhere to
right.
be.
I
Yeah.
mean, I have to get up at 2:30.
You do.
But I only need a couple of hours sleep and a strong coffee. I'll be all right to
Don't
drive.
I'm not going to keep you for a Rick Maya style 5 hours, I
I,
promise.
I heard about that when Rick told me. I thought, God, I hope that guy doesn't get in touch with me. And here we are.
I think there's probably an awful lot of British and metal musicians across the internet now are hoping that I don't get in touch with them, but I am getting in touch with them. Some of these are going to have probably really short answers, and some of them not. On the Krakow, I apologize. On the Krakow DVD, you pronounce anathema as anathema. Did you do that as a joke?
No, I always called them that in the early days
Yeah.
because I wasn't sure how to say it, and someone else said it like that.
Yes.
So I thought, well, I mean, I know Europeans will say things differently. In fact, I mean, you look at the length and breadth of Great Britain, which is tiny, really. You know what the language is like. You go
Hmm.
to Liverpool, you can barely understand them. You go to Birmingham, the language changes, and people say things differently, slightly in different places. And I'm pretty sure I was in Europe, and they said anathema,
Yeah.
and it just pops out like that. And it's almost like I'll say it whichever way I fancy, depending on who I'm talking to. I think
Yeah.
when back in the UK it was anathema.
Hmm.
In Europe it became anathema because I think that's how the Europeans pronounced it.
I'm with you. So you've tailored that to they say effective communication happens in the language of the receiver. So what you're saying is Polish crowds will want me to say anathema. I've put words in your mouth again. I apologize.
I suppose,
Um,
yeah, that's the way it happens. If you do it differently, they're either going to go who,
mhm.
or they're going to laugh and go you idiot.
Yeah.
So I do it the way they do it. It's
What way do you pronounce the name of the band that Glenn Benton is the singer of?
deicide.
I say deicide, you see.
Yeah,
Because you have deities, you know?
Well, I suppose so, yeah.
But it is deicide. I think, in fact, on one of the early press releases, it's actually spelt phonetically. It says deicide, just in case anyone was ever worried
Well,
about it. But
one of my favorite singers is well, again, we're going to get onto the pronunciation of a surname here, which I'd got wrong forever until I heard him introduce himself.
yeah.
So I thought the singer of Swans was Michael Gyra.
Oh, how does he pronounce it?
When I saw him in a church in Liverpool about 3 years ago, he said, "Good evening, everybody. I'm Michael Gyra."
Ah,
So he pronounces it Gyra.
yes.
I've been calling him Gyra for years. So
You know,
it's just,
Louis Theroux, the broadcaster.
yeah.
So Louis Theroux's cousin is the American actor, might be Canadian actually, Justin Theroux, but their fathers are brothers. But because the family split geographically at different stages decades ago, they pronounce their own surname differently, even though they are cousins. They are cousins that are in contact. They're close enough family members with completely different pronunciations of their surname.
Well, look at Aaron. It's pronounced Aaron,
Yeah, you get it.
half of
Yeah,
the UK, and Aaron in the other half of the UK. I
yeah.
couldn't care less.
There's a very famous sketch by the American comedians Key and Peele in which it's pronounced Aaron, which
I
ruined it.
saw that.
Yeah, ruined it for me for years. I'm sure that was probably sent to you.
That's
So,
a great
yeah,
sketch.
a very funny guys. Great sketch. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another one. Might be a short answer, and this seems like the kind of thing that might even have been covered in the old MDB newsletters, which I have somewhere here in the stack beside me, but I don't want to look for them. The concept, you can correct me if I'm wrong, of the middle section of the whore, the cook, and the mother is that it's kind of like a take on the Blade Runner, are you a human or a replicant
Yeah.
questionnaire, and your questions. The questions aren't heard, but your answers are heard in English. The questions are in Japanese, I think, or maybe another Asian language.
Chinese, I think.
It's Chinese. So here's the question, if you can answer this. And I understand sometimes in the podcast I've asked questions like this in the past and I've been told that some secrets must be kept. What's the question that prompts the fuck you that ends that section?
Oh God. I have these written down somewhere in a box in the garage. Well, I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
when I came up with that concept, um, I thought, well, do we know any actors or actresses who can do a foreign language? And right next door was a Chinese takeaway. So I went in there and I said, "We're in a band, we're doing this. Here are the questions in English. Could you read them? And we'll record you reading them in your native language," which I believe was Chinese, or possibly more Mandarin, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Maybe.
And she did, and then we thought, "Thank you very much. We'll take some rice, some noodles, blah blah blah," and then we put it together in the studio. And I honestly, I can't remember what the final question was. It won't have been anything because this was an innocent Chinese woman. There was going
Yeah.
to be nothing graphic or violent. So I think I will have just delivered that answer to give it some dramatic ending
Hmm.
um, as the music comes back in. But I've no idea. Can't remember what it was.
It forces you to kind of create some of the dialogue in your head because you'll find this with Star Wars as well. Whenever C3PO, that's the gold guy, he's talking to R2D2, is the little white guy, and R2D2 speaks in beeps, and
Yeah.
then C3PO will respond, and sometimes he'll kind of repeat what R2 has said, and sometimes he'll just react to it. So then you, you start writing dialogue for R2D2 in your head, and in your head you can be as vulgar as you like, because R2D2 doesn't really like C3PO. But I find the same thing happens in that section in that song where your answers are clearly answers to placid questions determined to test your memory and your humanity. And it's like maybe like, what color are your mother's eyes? What height was your father? Do you have any cats and stuff like that? So when you get to that stage of that question that prompts that answer, in terms of the characterization of whoever it is you're playing there, I'm like, what did she say to him? So if you ever find that box, you've got at least one interested party.
Well, surely there must be someone who speaks Mandarin out there who knows the answer.
Yeah, get in touch in the comments, folks, and like and subscribe while you're at it. I wanted to ask, if it's not an oversimplification, your growling and your death metal style changed considerably on The Light at the End of the World, and you hadn't done that since I was going to say Turn Loose the Swans, but some of the EPs after, I'm the Bloody Earth probably would have been the last time that you did, Death Fox. Where did you find that new voice? Did it come to you naturally? It's almost like a higher register, and your diction's much clearer. Um, but yeah, where did that come from? Did you work on that, or did you just decide, right, we'll go back in that sort of maybe heavier direction and try something out?
I didn't work on it. I think because I'd taken a gap, because a couple of albums had clean vocals, if not all the way through, then certainly a good
They
amount of
did. It
the
was
way.
at least two. Yeah, Angel and Like Gods are both all clean.
Yeah, and although we were still playing live, so I was still doing the death metal vocals, just nowhere
Yes.
near as much. And I think after 34 came out, which we were planning on touring with, that's when Calvin left.
Yeah.
And I think possibly Bill, the drummer, as well, a Canadian chap.
Hmm.
And I think somebody else, possibly, I mean, it's a long, long time ago.
Well,
So we,
Martin wasn't on that one either.
no, so we scrapped that tour idea off. We thought, well, okay, we're not touring it now. Why don't we start on the next album?
Hmm.
And we did quite a lot of experimentation on 34. So me and Andy decided, right, we've done that fancy stuff. Let's go right back to basics.
Hmm.
Let's just write some great doom death and scream the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. But I guess my voice, well, obviously as you get older, your voice changes. And I guess with me not doing as many death metal vocals, it meant when I came to the studio to do death metal vocals for that album, they were just different.
Hmm.
That's all that came out. It came out
Yeah.
like that. There was no one said do it higher, do it lower, do it if we do it that way. They're the lyrics. Here's the music. Rah rah rah. That's the way it came out. There was no. There were very few plans of albums. You've got the lyrics, the music, and sometimes things change. You always adjust things in the studios.
Hmm.
Some bits get thrown out, other bits get added. And I never know when I'm during the writing process if a song or an album is going to be clean vocal heavy or death metal heavy. I never know when I set out on that journey. I listen to the music. Sometimes when the riffs are going mental, it's quite nice to have a juxtaposition where there's clean, steady vocals,
Hmm.
and the other way around as well. When it's something soothing that the band are performing, you're yelling all over it. But for the most part, if there is a heavy riff going like Billy-O, you
Hmm.
want the vocals to go along with that,
Yeah.
because it just sits and it all bounces together nicely. And you start screaming and shouting, and when the band slow down, you move to the clean vocals. Um, but I don't. When I get the music, I don't think, right, this is what I'm going to do. You just write, and it comes out that way. And then when you record it, again, there are times where I can't recall which songs off the top of my head now. There are some songs which in demo form have clean vocals.
Hmm.
Didn't work in the studio, so I death metaled it,
Yeah.
and vice versa. There was some stuff, particularly if I was really proud of some of the words I'd written, I thought, well, I'm not going to death metal these because I want people to be able to read them and enjoy what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
So although I may have demoed it death metal style, I want to try it clean.
Hmm.
Uh, and I try it clean and it stays. Those old demos, well, I mean, I've got the tapes. There'll be some stuff on those tapes where people will be thinking, he doesn't do this on the album.
Yeah.
And but I mean, God, if I can find the time to, because the problem is, when you record your rehearsals, and that's how we demoed stuff back then. Not like everyone's got a home studio now. You can demo stuff in your home studio. And it's great. Back then, you did it in the rehearsal room. You put a tape recorder and a microphone in the middle of the room,
Yeah.
try to get a rough balance, and everybody just played at it. And I've got the tapes here somewhere. And as I said, but you've got, because I didn't want, um, if a tape went if a tape snapped or got broken, I didn't want an entire full cassette full of demos to go down the bin. So I'd only record a couple of songs on a tape, then swap it out for another tape, so backing up. And so it just takes forever to back up a cassette tapes, and
Well, it takes as long as it lasts, doesn't it? There's no way to
there's no
fast track it.
fast
You just have
forward.
to
Yeah,
record in real time. If
yeah,
if you can't find the time to do it, You bring them with you on the plane and head up to Northern Ireland. And I'll take them off your hand, no
All right,
problem.
we'll
Yeah,
do that one
a
day.
nice one. I wanted to, I suppose, as a follow up to that as well. I wanted to pay you the compliment that my original concept for this interview months and months and months ago, when I didn't think that we could talk about the Towards the Sinister, thing, was 10 songs with Aaron Stainthorpe, and I made a list of 10 songs that I wanted to discuss with you, and we have discussed some of those, but that's kind of fallen by the wayside. But one of those was the return to the beautiful, because of the use of voice, the use of characterization in the voices in that song. So you're doing the back and forth between the two characters is spectacular, and that's the thing that just about. Again, as a drummer, I prefer what Rick does in the original version to what Sean does in the re-recorded version. But I think pretty much everything else sounds better on the re-recorded version. Do you remember? I mean, he had given me an account of this last week, but do you remember what the decision was in terms of re-recording a track for the first time in a long time? I know you'd re-recorded stuff from the demo for the first EP, but what was the thinking behind re-recording Return of the Beautiful?
Well, when we did the original, the budget was shit.
Mm.
I mean, as good as Peaceful were, they're not gonna, we're not going to a big name studio. We're going to go to the one that Hammy sort of was in bed with.
That would have been Academy right back as far as that,
Yeah,
wouldn't it? Yeah.
Academy. It's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But the budget was non-existent,
Mm.
and we felt with the passing of time and a bigger budget, and possibly even a change of studio, we thought, look, that song's great, and it sat there on that early recording, not as good as we wanted it to be. We've got the money and the equipment now to make that song, to give it what it deserves, the production values that a song like that deserves, because it's almost like a film. Do you know what I mean? There's a story going on, there's a battle going on, and it would be a shame to just leave it on that early recording where we felt the production wasn't as good as it could have been. So we had more money and a better studio, so we re-recorded it to give it what it deserved. I mean, you'll always get people saying, well, the original's miles better. And great. I don't agree with you. I think the newer version is better, which is why we did it. We wanted it to sound crisp and tighter.
Yeah.
But some people like that early racket. And I get it. It's the same with me and loving other bands,
Yeah.
You look at Ride the Lightning by Metallica, and, you compare the production there to Master of Puppets, and it's infinitely different. But I love both just because of the way they sound. I don't have a preference. They both sound completely different, but in a good way. And we wanted a really great song to have a second lease of life where people might be able to appreciate it more. I think for the most part it worked. Obviously not the drums, according to you, but I think Sean did a great job.
Sean's a terrific drummer. I said this to Aid. I think Sean's more of instinctive drummer, and Sean would change things up quite a bit live, whereas Rick's parts, at least on the original, feel much more composed, which he denied. He said, I didn't write those parts at all, they just came to me. And I'm like, if you came up with that off the cuff, then you're the king that I think you are. I'll tell you what else I think, Aaron. I think the gong is better on the original as well. The gong that signals the second act, so to speak. But then there's that choral. Again, I'm repeating from what I said to Ed last week. Sorry, folks, if you've watched both interviews, but you're spending too much time on this channel. Go do something else. But the comes in towards the end with the really really fast riff, and it just goes on for ages. Your final line on that album, as with the original, I can tell by your smile you're not here for the sunset, just fucking kills me every time. So in so many ways, it is superior. Sean, if you're watching this, I would love to have a chat, and I really 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 like your playing, but Rick was there first.
Tell you, when Sean was in My Dying Bride, we were shooting a video in an old mill in Bradford. I can't remember the name of the song, but we took it in turns to perform for the camera, and for the most part, most of us can mime, but Sean has to play the kit because you just can't mime it properly.
Yeah.
And I remember it's a big empty mill, and Sean's going hell for leather on this song, and we're all just stood agog at how incredible it sounded. Even though there was playback, you couldn't hear the playback because the fucking drums were so deafening.
Yeah.
And there was another band. It must have been perhaps rehearsals upstairs or downstairs. Anyway, there was another band who sort of walked past the door and did a double take.
Yeah.
And they all slowly moved in so they could see what was going on. And when Sean finished, they were like that. And they were saying that was fucking unbelievable.
That'd been well earned,
Absolutely
yeah.
unbelievable. They'd never seen someone work a kit like Sean. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those moments where, well, I'll never forget it.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. Brilliant player. I mean, Aaron, as the singer of the band, did it? How to phrase the question like this? I find sometimes that the phrase "How did you feel about" almost suggests that the interviewer, if I can call myself that, doesn't have a question to ask. But what I'm trying to fish for some sort of opinion on was the rotating of the drum stool in My Dying Bride, because Rick was your drummer, and then Rick leaves and Bill's there for an album, and then he's gone, and then you have this back and forth between Sean and Dan that goes on for quite some time. And then Jeff comes in for a little while, and then he's out, and then Dan's back. Did you ever feel as the singer that impacted on your sense of foundation within the band, or did it have any impact on the dynamics backstage? There are other guys there that I didn't mention too. John Bennett, who played on Line of Deathless Kings, was a fucking astounding drummer for, again, just for that one record and possibly a few gigs. And
There was
yeah,
another guy, Mike Unsworth, stepped in for a short while as well.
I was looking at footage of you guys playing live recently, and I didn't recognize the drummer, and I thought there must have been someone else there. Yeah, did he have short hair?
Yeah, it was certainly Unsworth. I think it was Mike, the guy from Liverpool. He did a sterling job for us at the same time. Yeah, when I because the core stayed together for a number of years, I almost thought to myself, if one of these guys leaves, it's just not going to be the same. It just won't. You know, we've got a friendship that shouldn't be broken. And then Rick left,
Yeah.
and I was gutted. But because I'm not a musician, I don't get involved in auditioning anybody else because I don't know. So I don't know how the auditioning went because I guess people get invited to the rehearsal room. They play a song and they sing along. Oh, well, I didn't bother going because I didn't. I just don't know if some. Well, I'd know if someone was terrible.
Yeah.
But because I'm not a musician, I felt my input would be unfair. So I never bothered. All the people we auditioned, I tried not to be there. I was there for some because we were there to rehearse anyway. But it was up to the other guys. It was up to the musicians to watch another musician and say yay or nay. And that seemed to work, you know. And it's never great when people come and go all the time. You hope for stability, but you know, rock and roll, it's not for everybody. You know, people don't realize what a pull it is from your family and the endless traveling, and it's tiring. And for some people, they give it a go, they like it for a bit, and then they realize it's just not for me. I want to do something different, and it ain't this. And they move on, and we've got to find someone else.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like that in quite a lot of bands. It's just the way it is.
The strangest thing too, though, with My Dying Bride was that Sean and Dan swap places so often. You know, what do you recall about your time working with David Gray? Because David was telling me he played with you guys for 2 or maybe 3 years, but never got as far as writing or recording. Do you think you would have liked to have, you know, got that length of things with David?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, David stayed at my house, so we've obviously got on very well.
Yeah, yeah.
And it must have been one of those periods where there were quite often 3 or 4 year gaps in between My Dying Bride albums, and David must have sat there in that gap, which is unfortunate. It would have been great to have him on an album because we know he's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, one of a kind.
It's just timing. You know.
He told me he found out essentially that he was no longer in My Dying Bride, I think, when The Barges to Whitby came out, and Sean was on it. and he was like, okay, I guess I'm out of the band now. But that leads me on to asking you about that song, because I think I try to be honest sometimes whenever I'm talking to people on this channel, but without the means to offend. But my favorite My Dying Bride stuff is probably the earliest the EP stuff, the EPs and the singles, where you guys were maybe free to try some of your weirder things. So again, if anybody's playing a drinking game with this channel, Paul mentions Le Surf Malade, Take a Drink, every time it comes up. It could even be my favorite My Dying Bride song, Aaron, and I'm not saying that for shits and giggles, like, but what I'm getting at is I liked it when you guys did weird things. I like Sexuality of Bereavement because of that weird reverse reverb thing that's happening on the drums. All kinds of strange stuff that got experimented on with the EPs. But perhaps no experiment was finer than writing a 27-minute long song about a big scary dog. What was the Bargest of Whitby like for you? Because your performance on that's another one of my 10 songs with Aaron Stainthorpe choices. Extraordinary on that song. And the section where you're almost, you're embodying almost like the two voices and they're overlapping, but they're not in perfect synchronization. Where the fuck did you come up with that?
I have no idea.
Because it's thrilling. The first time I listened to that, all the hairs on my body stood on end when you were doing that, and then whenever you was, and then you the mention of the silver bullet, and then the cry from the wolf goes up, and I was like, this is as good as it gets. Hamish's riffing, I believe it was Hamish that kind of took a lead on that song, is fucking disgusting. It is so crusty. Sean's drums sound like they were, never mind the mill, they sound like they were recorded in a garden shed. It is so lo-fi and just like, take this, here we go, 27 minutes. It sounds like it was recorded live. It's extraordinary. One of the true peaks of My Dying Bride. But where did you recall anything about that song? How you ended up doing a 27-minute track? Still would have been on Peaceful at that stage, so.
Yeah, we didn't plan it on being that long.
Mm-hmm.
We got the feeling it would be an epic because I had a lot of words written and I wanted to cram them all in, because there are songs like The Light at the End of the World where I wrote a whole ton of words but only sung half of them.
Okay.
But we still chose, I think, to print all of the words in the booklet.
I have noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, so and with Barguest, I thought, well, I've written all this, I'd quite like to sing it. And so we did, and you don't realise how long the songs are getting. Well, certainly I didn't. When you're rehearsing the song, you don't look at your watch and go, we're at 8 minutes, should we call, is that it?
Mm.
There was never any of that. It's just, it's over when it's over. And we kept coming up with more and more ideas. And we knew it was a long one. And it was only when we finally pressed stop on the stopwatch and we're like, wow,
yeah,
what's Hammy gonna say?
Yeah.
And funnily enough, getting back to the title, I pronounce it Barguest.
I've no, it probably is Barguest. I don't know where Barguest from, yeah.
But I don't recall. I mean, we've been in so many studios so many times. I can't recall the recording of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we went in and did that one song, because quite often what we used to do was record a whole album and a few extra songs for an EP release later.
Yeah, you did that with Ghost of Orion, didn't you?
Yeah, we've done it with loads of things.
Yeah.
But I can't remember. That's such a long song. I can't remember if that was recorded
as a bonus track.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It could well have been recorded. We could have booked time in the studio and recorded it perfectly just for a standalone release, but I can't remember. But I had read some folklore stories about the North Yorkshire moors,
mm-hmm.
and all the little villages around that area going up to the coast of Whitby, Robin Hood's Bay. They all have their own little stories about witches and goblins and demons.
Mm-hmm. And
the reoccurring one was a large black dog, which seems to just appear out of the mist in the middle of the night and snatch children from their cots.
Yeah.
But there, other times it was a witch's dog. Other times it was a wolf, an escaped wolf. Other times it had leapt from a sinking ship. So I sort of decided, well, I'll put them all together and just make some demonic hound, which seeks revenge on its master's death. And then I looked at a map of the area, and in the song, quite a lot of these place names turn up
Mm-hmm.
as the wolf or dog or hound or Barghest works its way from an inland village via other villages and hovels and settlements up to Whitby, where the final deed is done.
Yeah.
And someone created an app that you could download where you can visit
Yeah.
all the places mentioned in the song, which I thought was lovely. I never looked at it,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it still exists. But and that was created, I think, by the guys who ran the um, the Bram Stoker International Film Festival. Michael and Michael, father and son. Sadly, it no longer exists. I think My Dying Bride were the last band to play it, and I think it was Michael's idea to come up with this app, and leading up to that festival headliner that we did there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's strange. I think there's a bit of a curse with My Dying Bride. There's been a number of venues which have closed after we played.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about. We were one of the very last bands to play at the famous Marquee Club in London,
Yeah.
and then that went. A couple of other places in Europe, we were the last band to play, and they just closed down. Maybe it's good timing for us. We got in there just before they closed. But yeah, the whole Barghest thing was. I'd written quite a lot of things which were English. I wanted them to be English or certainly British Isles in feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed a lot of Scandinavian bands were talking about their own countries and the
Yeah.
history of their own countries. And I thought, well, I haven't really dabbled there hugely, which is
Mm-hmm.
why the Barghest came out, which is why I researched um, the folklore of these kinds of places and visited a couple of the places. And I just thought, well, yeah, I should be focusing a bit more on the land where I live.
Yeah.
There are very, very few, for want of a better phrase, Americanisms in My Dying Bride's music, and I I didn't really want them to have a contemporary sound. I wanted people to listen to My Dying Bride and enjoy some form of escapism from the rat race that we all have to, from taxes and politicians.
Yeah.
And because I did it when I was younger, I'd put these massive, great headphones on and just listen to my favorite bands and drift off onto another plane. And I always wanted My Dying Bride fans to light some candles, put your headphones on, put the music on it, and go on a journey with us. And
Yeah.
using the words, the music, any sound effects we may have added, go on this journey with us and leave whatever troubles you've got behind and
Mm-hmm.
come and ride with us for an hour.
I like that because I remember exactly where I was the first time I listened to that song and quite a few of your other records as well. Because I suppose of the creation of imagery and the physical sensation that it provoked in my body. I mean, I imagine that you didn't play that song live too many times, if at all.
There was a plan. What, did we do it or not? We played the 70,000 tons of metal cruise ship out
Mm-hmm.
of Miami and Fort Lauderdale three times, I believe. And there was talk of us, you're supposed to do two sets. So as the ship sails out for a day and a half or 2 days, you do one set. Then there's a day off at whichever island the ship is going to moor at. And then on the way back, you do another set.
Mm.
Now, lazy bands did exactly the same set, which, come on, guys, pull your finger out.
Yeah.
And we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could somehow bookend, maybe start with part one of Barghest
Yeah.
on the way out and play some other songs, and then on the way back into port, play some other songs and end with part two of Barghest. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it manifest. I if it did, then I'm an idiot. If it didn't, then I think that's
Somebody will tell us. Somebody will know.
yeah.
I get some extremely detailed, what should be forgotten lore in the comments here sometime. But that's the kind of stuff that Dream Theater used to do all the time. They would
Yeah.
end an album, and then the next album would start with the sound that the previous album ended on. And
Oh, we did something similar with.
I think I know where you're going to go with this because I was going to ask you about it. It's that A Line of Deathless Kings
Yeah,
ends at the end of the Blood, the Wine, the Roses. There's that really,
that's
really
right.
speedy death metal section, which
Yeah.
then is the start of one of the songs on the next album. But crucially, it doesn't start the album, which,
Yeah.
yeah, for me was an unforgivable sin, if you don't mind me saying,
Well,
Aaron.
we
So,
apologise.
no, I think that album, though, for Liza Sire, I think maybe your finest performance, if I can pay you that compliment. There's something about the way that you were um, mixed on that album. There's an intimacy to the sound of your voice. Do you remember that being intentional at all?
I always thought that the vocals were never quite loud enough. It's the same, guitarists want it louder, the drummers want it louder,
Yeah,
everybody wants it louder.
been there. Yeah.
And it was only because when we were, there used to be a club called, or a pub called the Black Tulip in
Hmm.
Dewsbury, and they'd play a bunch of songs, and then when a My Dying Bride song came on, it sounded like it was being played underwater. And you
Hmm.
could see the DJ trying to turn everything up on the mix thing, trying to make it sound as pointy as the other songs. And I was like,
Yeah.
why are our albums muddy? And
Yeah.
I could never hear the vocals. And anyway, it was probably a new studio. It could have been, would almost certainly would have been Mags twiddling the knobs.
But it's your clean
Uh,
vocals in particular that sound even not necessarily clear. There's just some, again, I have to use that word intimate. There's just a closeness. Maybe it's a closeness to the microphone or a closeness to.
it could have been
I can't figure it
that
out. Like, but
basic.
yeah,
It
it
could
could
have
have
been
been.
that basic. Just yeah, I was probably right
Yeah,
up there like that.
but
Um,
it captures it captures something of a vulnerability in your performance as well. Aaron, I refuse your suggestion that it could be anything but intentional. I think there was something happening there. I think there was some sort of intentionality because it's a very honest performance. I think you sound spectacular on it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I want wondering as time goes by in recording studios, there was a time when all the band were there
Hmm.
to record an album, and then over time it's like, okay, we'll have the drummer in for a week, then he'll go and someone else will come in, and so it was rare to have everybody in at the same time, apart from the listening bits at the end. So I'm wondering if there was a point where it was just me and the engineer,
Yeah,
and when you have less of an audience, I think you're going to put more of an effort in, or be more daring,
I've heard it said.
because
Yeah,
because when you're in the recording booth, I was always a little bit fearful of trying something extra. Then when talkback happens, you can hear the band laughing,
hmm,
and you just think, "Fuck right, I'm not doing that ever again." And when there is no band, I mean that almost didn't happen, but when you know there's no band and it's just Mags or whoever it was at the time, you can try, because Mags won't laugh.
yeah.
You try. I mean, we've done things where I've gone like that, and Mags has said, "Should we do another one?"
Hmm.
There's no laughing, but there's
Yeah, yeah.
what you're saying.
No, it's like when
Uh,
your teacher addresses you. It's like,
yeah.
should we try that again sensibly?
So I think some of the better stuff may have been when the rest of the band wasn't there, and I just felt a bit more at ease and
Hmm.
a bit more able to deliver something without being mocked, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think all musicians should be given more freedom in the studio without the rest of the band, because I think you will play better
Hmm.
when you I don't know what I don't know. It's just it works
You're,
for me.
you, I know, I completely know. Like, I mean, sometimes whenever I'm playing drums in the rehearsal room, if I know there are people in the area because there's more cars outside or there's another rehearsal room nearby and I can hear people playing in that, I don't think that I play it as well because I feel observed, even though nobody is observing me. Whereas when I know that there's nobody out there, I think somehow for whatever reason you play a little bit better. And I don't know how that translates to the live setting, but um, I think that was the last record you did, Aaron, before the double, the layering of the vocals became more prominent in your performances. From what was the single from A Map of All Our Failures that you did that on? The Blind Girl, that bit, and it's almost like harmonizing with yourself. I'm
Yeah,
rubbish with names sometimes, but
I can't remember half this stuff.
yeah,
I love it when I listen to it back,
yeah,
and it's great when you return to these songs and you go, wow, I forgot about that, and I forgot
Yeah.
about this, and I've forgotten about quite a lot of it.
The
But
one
that's
the,
because there's a lot to remember, so some of it's going to disappear.
there is, yeah. Whenever I was listening back to all of your stuff to get prepared for this, the thing that impressed me the most was, there's a song called "Fall with Me." I think it's
Oh yeah,
on for Liza Sarah as well. And am I right in saying that the word that you draw out is feast, where you kind of go feast?
yes,
That's fucking brilliant. Yeah, really, really like that. So, but again, I think for years I probably presumed that that was like a keyboard effect or something. And then I was listening to it on a decent pair of headphones, and I was like, oh no, that's Aaron.
yeah.
Right.
I remember years ago in one of those moments where I had my bedroom light off and I had some candles going over there, the big headphones on. Now I don't remember which album it was. It was possibly The Serpent's Egg by Dead Can Dance.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're listening to the music ambiently, you're only hearing the music and the vocals. When you've got it in the headphones and really loud, you can hear the breathing in between some of the quieter moments. And the first time I heard that, I
Yeah.
shat myself, thought someone was in the room with
Yeah.
their head right next to me because, and I can't remember if it was the female voice or the male voice,
Mm-hmm.
they'd kept the big intake of breath before the singing.
Yeah.
So in my ears, I heard,
Yeah.
and then the voice came. And when I heard that, I was like, ah, this, I thought someone was right there in my room.
Yeah.
And after that, I thought, I want to keep some breathing
Yeah. You did. Yeah.
right up to the pop shield and
Yeah.
keep breathing in some of the songs because that's where the intimacy lies.
Yes.
And
You've
you
all.
can't hear it in the car, you can't hear it in the disco, you can't hear it in your kitchen while you're cooking. You can only pick it out when you've got it on loud and you're focusing on it.
You did that on Return to the Beautiful as well, just before the last kind of hurrah of the kind of no, that's more of an
Yeah,
effect that you're talking about. But
yeah.
I remember having that with one of your songs too, with A Doomed Lover, which is the song that closes Songs of Darkness, Words of Light, which I believe has never been played live because of the amount of layers that's happening at the end. But buried somewhere within there on headphones, you can hear a pick scrape. But the first time that I heard it, I didn't know that that's what it was, and I thought, oh, there's some significance to whatever that sound is. So I hopped on the My Dying Bride forums, which used to be very active, and I think some of you guys used to pop in now and then to
Yeah.
answer questions. I remember Martin telling me all about his equipment back in the day and everything. That's where I first found out that Rick wore hair extensions for the photo shoot for, I think, like Gods of the Sun as well, which he has. Yeah, so never mind. But the pick script, we discussed the pick script for a while, and I wasn't the only person that thought, yeah, what are they trying to communicate with that? Nothing, nothing.
And that's me.
No,
That's
nothing,
me.
nothing. I think that's about it for my stupid questions. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick fire ones before we go. I mean, this one can be significant enough. What's some stuff that you're really looking forward to playing live with these guys and girls whenever you get on stage with Towards the Sinister?
I mean, I've always loved Turn Loose the Swans.
Yes.
Just for me, it's almost less of a song and more an artistic thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love the lyrics. I love the way the structure of the whole song. It's long and it's epic without outstaying its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a joy from start to finish.
It's a masterpiece, if I can say that. Yeah, and
Well, I
even
appreciate that. Well,
yeah,
that's obviously in the set.
yeah.
Um,
Now tell
and
us the rest of the songs that are in the set, so we can get this on
uh,
Blabbermouth.
I think one of the newest songs. I think we're doing For You.
Oh,
Um, and oh God, I can't remember. Songless Bird. This,
you have to play that because Rick Maya's playing fucking drums. You have to do Songless
yeah,
Bird. Yeah,
it's 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 a good collection of that period, I think.
but no, no,
Again, you're
no,
going
Le
to get
Surf
people
Malad.
saying, "Pardon."
No, Le Surf Malad.
That might be something I can do with Mark and Joe Quayle because that Joe does looping on the cello.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
If she teaches me how to do a bit of that,
Uh huh.
then with her cello looping and my vocals looping, we can do that.
So you could possibly do that in Antwerp, maybe.
Well, that's it.
No, what? No, you can't.
Quite a short run up, but I mean that Antwerp is Zila Clanken 2.
Yes, yes. Thank you
We've
for
done Zila
pronouncing that.
Clanken 1. Zila Clanken 3?
Perhaps.
because I did speak to Mark as well about doing some songs from Evinter, which
Oh,
nobody would expect.
yeah.
Uh,
I've been
so we
talking a little bit to Johnny Modeling recently, and his work on that.
Johnny's lovely.
Johnny's lovely. Yeah, he's going to do a show with me recently from one of the first three Balsagoth albums are being reissued, so we're going to do a little celebration about that. But his 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 choice of sounds on Eventa, and this is what I had to ask him. And I was like, "Where on earth did you come up with those?" You know, it's a terrific, on great undersung work for both you and I mean, it is essentially both. It's you and Johnny, and I'm sorry I've forgotten the name of the lady that sings on it as well. But there's
Lucy Roche.
Lucy Roche. That's right. Yeah. Was it anybody else from the band that actually recorded on that, Aaron?
Andy might have done some stuff. He certainly rocked up at some of the recording sessions.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I, I could be wrong, but I don't think anyone else rocked up. And yeah, I used to go down to Johnny's studio every day for a couple of weeks, and we do a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah.
And we flew Lucy in from France. She's a professional opera singer.
Yeah.
I mean, her career is going stellar. Whether we could lure her back
Mm.
to do some Avinta stuff, I'm not sure we have that budget, but I'm still in touch with her. So if me and Mark take a look at Avinta and find maybe just a couple that work really well,
Yeah.
then I will certainly give Lucy the call. And Johnny as well. Yeah, Johnny's brilliant. When you see him, Johnny's a big guy, big muscly metalhead who, when you see him, you think he'll rip your head off. And when he gets behind the piano,
Yeah.
his eyes close as he tinkles the ivories, and it's a man at one with his instrument. And
Yeah.
it's a pure joy to watch. He's not looking at anything, and he doesn't need to, and he plays beautifully. And it
Yeah.
was just, I would happily sit there and watch him play all day while I drank coffee. And at the end of the day, when I've done absolutely nothing, say, "What a great day we've had."
Yeah, I mean, like I had said to him, like, here's what I like that you've done. Do you have anything more like this? And he recommended me a bunch of stuff, which is very kind of him. And one of the tracks is a collaboration he'd done with another Johnny, whose surname I've forgotten, but I'll get it linked underneath. And he sent that across to me, and I think it was maybe 4 or 5 minutes long. And I said exactly the same thing to him. I said I could listen to a day of this, a day of this going off in different directions. But there's something about his musical instincts that speak to wherever my pleasure center is. I love what Johnny Maudling does, you know.
Oh,
So
he's
yeah,
such a talented guy.
so maybe some Eventa stuff in the future then.
I don't see why not. I wouldn't write that off. And Le Surf Malade, that might be something we can look at.
You heard it here first, folks. What about Thrash of Naked Limbs? Maybe.
Oh, definitely. We've played that a million times.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's one of those where we all wrote a set list,
Hmm.
and there was probably three songs the same, and then everything else was clashing, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a brilliant song. I should have included that, but I've already got, and it was just like, oh, we have to shuffle some of these out the way to make room for blah blah blah.
Oh, you've got
Uh,
plenty of time over the next couple of years and different
yeah,
types of shows. You maybe do some club shows, do some festival shows. You can
yeah,
tailor it that way. You know.
yeah, definitely.
Amazing, Aaron. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to let you go after a couple of my usual stupid bullshit questions. Answers
Okay,
can be
well, thank you very
as
much.
it can be as long or short as you like with the answers on these. Number one is Exorcist 1 or Exorcist 3.
I mean, it's going to be three, right?
Oh no, please, please.
Get out of here! I'm joking. I'm pulling
Nobody,
your leg.
nobody, nobody yet has committed to an Exorcist 3, and I think there's a case for it. But I'm not. You're the guest, so Exorcist
Oh
1.
God, one is absolutely astonishing.
Well, add it to the pile.
First time I saw it, I was nearly sick.
The first time I saw it was only a couple of years ago in a packed out cinema in Belfast, and I was shocked. And you don't get shocked really much in your mid to late 30s, but it was just scene after scene after scene, the barrage, not
Yeah.
just of the effects, but the effect of the suggestion. Yeah, you must have seen it a brave while ago then.
I saw it when I shouldn't have seen it. And back then they were referred to, I think, by Mary Whitehouse as video nasties.
That's right. It was a yeah, banned film.
It
Yeah,
was on the list. Yeah,
yeah.
that along with Omen, the very first Omen as well,
Was the
which
Omen on the list?
I think so, yeah.
Jesus, oh,
Because you've got a kid murdering people in the name of Satan.
yeah.
Mary Whitehouse didn't like that.
No, that would be on her list
Uh,
of yeah.
Uh, sorry, yes. You're not going to say Omen 1 or Omen 4, are you?
Was there an Omen 4?
Probably.
Sam Neill was in one of the Omens, wasn't he? 2, maybe? No, 3. He played Damien grown up as the president or something in Omen 3. I don't know.
I'd given up by that point.
Yeah, no, I don't. I've only ever seen the first Omen film. What's the best Napalm Death album?
Well, I've got to go Scum, right?
Yeah, he had said Scum.
Well, yeah, because again, with Metallica, I'm either going to say Ride the Lightning or Master of Puppets. I think when I had Master of Puppets on in the car just last week, we've got a new car,
Hmm.
and it's a relatively cheap car, but it's got a fucking great stereo.
I miss having a good stereo.
And Puppets, it was like thunder. It was
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. We had it on loud, and it was fucking great. And so that would always be my favorite Metallica album,
Hmm.
despite their canon being vast.
Yeah.
And that being early doors, I can't help going back to that because that was part of my founding years in metal. I discovered Master when it came out and then went back to the others
Yeah.
and then got to And Justice for All and struggled, not because of the music they wrote after that, but because I kept discovering newer and newer things. And I can't play every album by every person.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Scum was one of those albums where it popped out, and I mean it was on John Peel,
Hmm.
it was on the BBC for crying out loud,
It
and
was. Yeah.
they were in magazines and all sorts of stuff, and people are like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
And I mean that album literally shouted out, and everybody heard it.
Yeah. That's an excellent soundbite. Rick was right. You're a pro at this. Um,
I've done a few interviews.
yeah. Um, tell me this. I haven't asked anybody this one before. What about Bolt Thrower? What's the best Bolt Thrower album?
We're going early again.
You think so?
Yeah. The first one was a racket.
That's the
Uh,
word for it. Yep. It's a great racket. I love it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Remind me of the second album title. I can
Realm
say
Realm of Chaos, Slaves to Darkness. Third one was War Master.
that one
Yeah, that's
because I
what.
remember the artwork
Yeah.
because back then I used to read a magazine called uh,
What, White Dwarf was it?
White Dwarf,
Yeah.
which back in the early days was the fantasy figures, but then it started to get more to that Warhammer 40,000
Well,
thing.
I think it was the official Games Workshop magazine, so they did all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And some of the artwork on Bolt Thrower was like that. It was utter chaos
Yeah.
going on, and you could watch. It's like you look at those album covers and you see something new every time you're having a look at it. There's so much
Yeah.
violence happening in front of you. It was mad.
It's terrific. There's a whole story behind that because the second album, Realm of Chaos, the cover for that album was actually from a Warhammer book called Realm of Chaos.
There
And
we go.
then they had the license for, I think, 15 years. And by the time the 15 years was up and they had to kind of renew the license, Games Workshop had become so big and so litigious that they refused to sell the license. They refused to renew with, I suppose it would have been Digby Pearson.
Yeah,
So they had to commission new artwork from the original guy. So now it doesn't look the way it looked originally. But
I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah, no, it's good. It's good metal trivia. That's what
Yeah,
you're here for, folks.
there we go.
What else? What else is on my stupid list of questions? Maybe I don't have any more questions, Aaron. Maybe you should go and get some sleep before you fly off to merry old. No, it's
Well,
not
we're going on the
England.
old boat.
You
We're
going on the
going on the boat,
boat?
so I'm driving along to Holyhead, which,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know what Great Britain looks like,
Hmm.
it's as far west as you can go, and then you drop into the Irish Sea,
Yes.
hoping there's a boat there waiting for us. 3 hours across the sea to Dublin,
3 hours
and
is 3 hours is nothing. The last time I was in
yeah,
Holyhead to Dublin for my sins, I watched the Motley Crue farewell DVD. I don't even know how I had access to that on a ferry, and it was so miserable, Aaron, because of it was Motley Crue, and yeah. So whatever you do this evening will assuredly be better than that. But 3 hours is nothing. This is a man that has
yeah,
toured the world.
yeah, negotiate Dublin, the outskirts, and then we head down south for about an hour and 20 minutes, and
Hmm.
then we'll arrive at our destination somewhere around lunchtime tomorrow.
Not so bad. So you get a bit of a lie in the afternoon. And if we could think of anything else to do at some stage, we'll maybe do something together
Okay.
again. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you the send off that I meant to introduce you by saying this, but I forgot to, which was, ladies and gentlemen, my guest this week on The False Face, rigid, handsome, and a poet. It's Mr. Aaron Stainthorpe.
Hello, everybody. Appreciate that. Thanks very much. I've really enjoyed my time here. Thankfully, it wasn't 3 hours, but
No,
it was long enough, and you some great questions because this is one of those. It doesn't feel like an interview. It feels like a conversation with someone who knows a lot about the subject matter,
that's the plan.
more
And
than the person who helped create it.
yeah. And I didn't want to step on, because I know you'd done that interview with David Gelk for Blabbermouth, which people should check out as well. There's maybe a little bit more information on some of the stuff that we talked about. But I know what it's like, Aaron, when you're on the promo circuit, or at least I can imagine, and you're getting asked the same questions all the time, and kind of want to sidestep some of that stuff, you know.
Yeah. No, these were good questions. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for.
You've made the effort. I remember doing some interviews um, where clearly the journalist sent to interview you, me and Andy, back in the day, didn't know who we were, not listened to the album, and just had a list of questions, probably written by someone else.
Yeah.
And they'd read it, and me and Andy, professional interviewees, you can answer a question with almost a cliffhanger so that a proper journalist would take that bait
Yes.
and go on to the next question being related to what you've just said. This guy's like that second question, and it happened all the way through till it got to the point where we're thinking, right, this guy knows shit.
Yeah, you wonder how people get into that. And I'm envious of people that get into that position where they're backstage at these shows and it's like, how the fuck did you get as far as this if you're not interested in the people you're talking to? How are you doing this? So whereas what I'll do is I'll keep a man up till nearly 10 o'clock at night when he has to get on a boat at 2 in the morning. So yeah. No.
Hey-ho. Well, I've been really enjoyed myself here, and if we've missed anything or you pop up with another couple of questions, just give me a shout and I'll put the camera on, I'll do my hair, and we'll fill in some gaps if necessary.
Whenever you get on stage for the first time with Towards the Sinister, are you going to say, "Good evening, whatever venue, we are from England, we are formerly known as My Dying Bride"?
That Dynamo classic.
It's a classic. That was Nerves incarnate, surely. That must have been.
Yeah. I mean, Dynamo was a big thing back then.
Yeah.
Asked to play it was great, and funnily enough, at the end of it, because I think it was it a 10-year anniversary of Dynamo, whatever it was.
Maybe.
At the end of it, they had the biggest fireworks I've ever seen in my entire life. I shat myself.
Yeah.
They weren't fireworks. They were giant explosions in the sky, and they were the biggest I've ever seen. And we were like, wow, are they supposed to be? Have they got the military in for this shit?
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Just to celebrate, some metal.
When I listen back to that, My Dying Bride, Nerves and all the rest of it.
It was very unkind of whoever edited that footage not to cut that out or get you into it. You could have dubbed it. You could have done the Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous. Sorry, maybe that's breaking the secrecy code there.
See, if it hadn't have happened, we wouldn't be talking about it.
This is true. And actually, Aaron, I'm so sorry. I do have one more question because I've just noticed on my notes here. I read in an interview earlier on that you were asked by Metallica to play a show somewhere interesting. When was that?
It was Athens.
Yes.
So it was My Dying Bride, Mastodon, and Metallica. We'd heard that they quite liked what we were doing. I think one of them is a bit of a fan. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
And we flew out to Athens. This it's like a natural amphitheater of mountains in a horseshoe shape with the stage here, and of course the crowd is fucking gigantic. And we're backstage. We met the Mastodon boys. Metallica aren't here yet. And of course, backstage is vast. The food is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like we've never seen backstage like this before. It was royalty. And then the big limousine rocks up, and out they all pop. And they're heroes to us. We were all agog when they came out. Hamish had the forethought to bring a whole bunch of records to get them autographed, along with suicidal tendencies and some other bits and bobs.
Yeah.
I forgot to bring anything, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And they were happy enough to sign everything, which was great. And James Hetfield came into our dressing room, introduced himself rather unnecessarily, but
Yeah.
that was quite polite. And we're all shaking his hand saying, fucking hell, we can't believe we're here. We got a photo with him. And
I have seen
great.
that photo. It's in the Evinta book and the Harvest of Dread book. Now that I think about it, that makes sense. We've put the two and two together. So
and they were lovely. They were absolutely lovely. And when we were on stage performing, blazing sunshine, as you would expect on the mountains in Greece. It still obviously wasn't full because a lot of people don't give a shit about the opening bands.
Yeah.
But it was full enough for us. And there was a moment halfway through the set, and I just looked to my side, and James and Kurt were stood there, sort of arms folded, but going like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's all I need. I've made it now. I've made it, and it was brilliant. And then we got to watch Mastodon from the side of the stage, the crowd getting bigger, the sky getting a bit darker.
Yeah.
And of course, when Metallica came on, fucking crowd went back miles and miles and miles. The lighting show. In fact, we knew the lights would be amazing, so we watched Metallica for a song or two at the side of the stage. Then we made our way out to the crowd so we could get the full effect. It's fantastic.
I suppose you would have tailored your set to the potential Metallica crowd then, in terms of.
I think we toned down the screaming and shouting a bit.
Yeah.
But My Dying Bride were already popular in Greece. There was a lot of My Dying Bride fans came to that gig.
Yeah.
But we have enough music to be able to tailor things. You know, when we sometimes when we played at Inferno Fest in Norway, obviously black metal. It's a black metal festival, so we said, well, let's dig out our noisiest shit.
Yeah.
So we did. And then when we do something like Mera Luna, a gothic festival, we'd go a bit more gothy.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know,
not at all. No.
Having enough music to try and keep everyone happy. Still obscure music, but you know, we did enough. Because you sometimes think, well, why don't we do the opposite? You know, if it's a goth crowd who are used to, you know, plenty of synths and some moping around on stage, let's go full metal in their face.
Yeah.
And wake them up a little bit. And I think we did one. I can't remember what it was. And for a laugh, I think Andrew suggested we normally end the set with one of, it's either erotic literature or Forever People, a real racket.
Yeah.
And I think Andy suggested, why don't we do that first? Just to wake everybody up a bit. And I'm a bit concerned about my throat because you normally start with some clean vocals to warm your throat up. I thought, fuck it, let's do it. So we walked out there and we belted out one of those two songs and it worked. Everyone's eyes popped out their head and we're like, who the fuck are these guys? So it's great.
That's amazing. Sorry for just telling you that I was going to let you go twice, but that Metallica thing just came back to me there and I knew there'd be a good story to it. So terrific. Listen, Aaron, really enjoyed this, and we'll get you back at some stage if you ever want to send those tapes over for some free digitization. I like to think of myself as this generation's Was White, even though Was is still around and doing his thing and chats to me quite frequently. But I am of his kind when it comes to the My Dying Bride, you know, nerdiness.
That is amazing. He's such a lovely soul. You know, he's one of the most beautiful people you could ever want to be in your life. I'm
just very, very happy to be speaking to that gent on a weekly basis. Again, I've used this word twice, but we're on the same wavelength. So it's cool to be in touch with him. Listen, Aaron, go and get some kip, and I'll speak to you again sometime soon, hopefully. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Cheers, Aaron. All the best. Bye bye. Bye bye.